What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Real Me and a movie podcast where you didn't really ask for it, but hey, we're going to give it to you anyways. This is a podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and, well, anything about movies. I'm one of your co-hosts, Chase Lee, and hey, guys, listen, if you were searching on the internet for another, Deadpool 2 review or, another movie podcast that you were, just searching around, you have no idea what's happening, and you accidentally stumbled across ours for the very first time, you walked into our house, and you're like, where am I at right now? Please, someone call my parents, I'm lost, and don't worry, come join the conversation. This is a film community. We love talking about this stuff, and hopefully you guys do as well, and we can convince you to be a movie fan, even if you aren't one. That's the power that we have. Joel doesn't have that. I have that power. If you are new, welcome once again. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. What we typically do is we'll go over some movie news and some trailers that drop throughout the week and commentate on them for you guys. And then we'll be reviewing a movie or movies, whether it be two indies, a couple blockbusters, a blockbuster and an indie, as the main portion of the podcast. And, of course, the box office results to accompany said movies. This is episode 231, and we are going to be reviewing Deadpool, all three of us. Yes, I said three, and we'll get to that in just a second. But first, before I introduce the co-hosts and guests, if you guys could spread this around and let people know this is the definitive movie podcast where you get all your information and tidbits and whatever you guys do. Please spread that around. It would help us out a lot. Now, obviously, co-host is over there and the guest is over there, but we will call them by their real names. First is the co-host, which is basically a guy with cancer. If you handed him a bow and arrow, he'd basically be Hawkeye. That would be Joel. Joel, how are we doing this week? And are you upset that I gave you that reference?
You're an interesting fellow. I'm good. It was a good week. I saw Avengers for a third time. Brought my parents along this time.
Yeah.
And they loved it. They were wide-eyed during the last 5 minutes, which still
as everyone was.
hits. Yeah, exactly. And so discussed theories and stuff with my dad on the drive back. And in any case, that was cool. Just been working and such. Still recovering from the film festival in terms of sleep, but exhaustion and all that. Just getting to me, guys. So anyway, good week though.
Yeah.
How was yours?
It was pretty good. I didn't really watch anything new. Started the first episode of season 2 of 13 Reasons Why this morning, but other than that, there's a bunch of stuff I've been wanting to check out on my watch list. I know they dropped that Fahrenheit 451 on HBO. I gotta get on that because I love me a double dose of Michael Shannon and Michael B. Jordan. But other than that, it's a pretty chill week, and this next week is pretty chill as well. But then the following week, Hereditary is on the horizon, and I cannot wait. But anyways, we have a guest this week. He has been on once before. He's been our friend for what seems like 20 years now. And he will be the grumpy old man with the Winter Soldier arm. And that would be Bryan Sudfield. Bryan, how are you doing this week?
Well, I'm not grumpy, I can tell you that.
Bryan,
no,
I was doing these references into the theme of the movie that we're reviewing, and you just need to go with it. Just go with the flow, sir.
Fine. I'm very grumpy. My life sucks.
Okay, Bryan, you sound like you have to go to the bathroom, so we'll go ahead and let you go for the rest of the podcast. So, anyways, no. So, Bryan, we haven't spoken for a while. You haven't been on this show in a while. Was the last one the episode 200?
Which one was that?
Kingsman: The Golden Circle.
Oh
and
no,
the Ninjago
I
movie?
was on the Disaster Artist episode.
Oh, that must have been shortly after. So basically, the last time you were on was in wintertime last year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. December, the second weekend of December.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Or first weekend, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I remember when he was on that.
Well, so what's been going on? We Joel and I live vicariously through you because you're still in college and you're still youthful and you haven't ruined your life yet. So we want to know what's been going on with school. What movies have you seen? What has the Sudfield been doing?
Let's see. Well, I just finished my second year of college last week.
I told you it'd fly by.
Yeah, it's going too fast. I'm currently jobless as we speak. Searching for a job. I hate it. I just hate life right now. Last time I was on, I was in a relationship. I'm single. I'm actually much better now. I've seen, to be honest, like when 2018 began, I didn't see a movie in the theater till February. See, I'm not like Joel and go see like 3 movies a week. I can't do that, unfortunately, due to time. But I've seen a lot of good stuff. I saw Isle of Dogs 3 times within the course of 5 days.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not even making this up. I saw it 3 times in 5 days, and it's insane. I interviewed Ethan Hawke 2 weeks ago at the film festival here in New Jersey, Montclair Film Festival. Great guy. Just loved him so much. He was so nice, so generous. First interview I ever did. Just a wonderful man, laid back, awesome. Saw First Reformed, amazing. Now, see, that film came out limited release this weekend, so for all you New York and LA people, please go see this film. Just go and check it out. Hopefully you won't be disappointed. It's one of the best of the year. Chase saw it too. It's great. It's wonderul. And other than that,
just rub it in. Just rub it in.
I mean, Joel, that's what he was doing. You don't have to bring it up.
I know.
You know, these are subtle jabs. Brian's all about subtlety. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm not all like crude and everything. But no, other than that, everything's been good. You know, just living, just hanging, just doing that, just hoping for the best. And yeah, I started 13 Reasons Why season 2 as well. 7 episodes in, not as good as season 1, but where I'm at right now, it's pretty good. Can't wait to see how this all wraps up. Hopefully it's good. And yeah, I binged a lot of Netflix shows since the last time I was on. Big Mouth, American Vandal, Love. Right now I'm wearing an American Vandal shirt. Free Dylan. Amazing. Yeah, see, Chase loves that. So
hey, listen, that was probably one of my favorite Netflix seasons that I watched last year, and a lot of people will just excuse it because it's ripping off, you know, all the docuseries that they do, and it's talking about spray painting dicks on cars, but in reality, it's really smart. It's a smart show.
It is a smart show. I was very surprised by it. I thought I was going to hate it, and I loved it. I saw it twice. I watched it twice.
Oh, wow.
I loved it. So, well, I watched it on my own, and then I showed it to my friends from home, and they loved it. So, but yeah, Big Mouth, Love. Started Ozark. I started Barry.
Barry's good, by the way. Barry is one of those HBO shows that it takes a couple episodes to kind of get in, and then it just kind of hits you in the face and really kind of amps up the tension. And Joel got a sneak peek of it. What was it, of episode 7 when you were here for a few days?
I don't know the number, but yeah, it did look really good though.
I saw the first episode, and it was so funny. Anything's better than stabbing a guy in nut. Yeah, no, that's really about it with me, and yeah, that's it.
Oh well.
And I'm 20 now. The last time I was on, I was 19. Now I'm 20.
Oh man, I don't want to hear it. You still can live your youth a little bit, and about a year and a half, I'll be 30, and it's already depressing enough to think about that. So. Joel's already 50, so he's already been through these crises, and so if you want to talk to him about this, you're more than welcome to. So, but yeah, that's,
you meddling kids with your MP3 players and your MySpace.
Joel, the next time you want to do Scooby-Doo references, like, just stop yourself and reevaluate your whole life. All right, so
but Scooby-Doo is what's in.
Oh god.
There's
if you thought Joel was old, take a look at his reference book. All right, so so Bryan is back on, and we're going to be reviewing Deadpool 2. No small reviews from Joel this week. You know, just like he said, we're still recovering from the week of, you know, madness that we did with the film festival and stuff. So yeah, Deadpool 2 is
I saw Book Club, but there's really not much to talk about, so I wouldn't have even done that.
Yeah, ironically enough, a movie that focuses on a bunch of people talking about books, there's nothing much to talk about.
Right.
All right, so yeah, that would be our main review, and we'll all three just kind of talk about it. And if you guys have never heard Joel's opinion on the first Deadpool, you will be shocked. But I kind of agree with him, kind of don't, and so that's where I'm kind of on the fence with that. But we'll get into that later on. But first, we got to drop down to some news, because I know we got a couple things to talk about, but also, Cannes was this week as well, and all the awards dropped for, the best films and performances and whatnot. So, Joel, take it away for the news section.
Yeah, so before I get to Cannes, there were a couple of things that dropped. Now, I just want to tell the audience that I decided to, I was looking through all the news that happened in the last few weeks, because it's been a while since we've done a news or trailer segment. So, or a proper one, I should say. So I just decided, you know what, there would be too much, so I just went with this past week of news instead of the stuff before that. So if anything dropped that you were curious about hearing about, I'm sorry. Just stuff gets lost in the weeds. In any case, we did have a couple of interesting things happen in the last week. There was the news that Zombieland 2 might actually be coming out, because this thing's been, they've been trying to make this happen for a while. The first one was a pretty big hit. I'm a huge fan of the first movie. I think it's a lot of fun and really, really clever, sharp in sort of the way that the Dawn of the Dead remake was, but more comedically. So I'm really happy to see that with Deadpool 2 out this week, that there's some news involving its writers, or two of its writers, Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, who wrote Zombieland way back in 2009. And so next year, next October, to be more specific, Zombieland 2 seems to be on the way, and they're really hoping that the original cast is gonna join them. Now, this is actually what's interesting. So back when the first one came out, there was only one cast member who was an Oscar nominee. And that was, ironically enough, the youngest one, Abigail Breslin, who had been nominated for Little Miss Sunshine a few years before that. And now that there's a new one coming, 3 of them are going to be nominees, including Breslin, Woody Harrelson for, of course, 3 Billboards last year, and then Jesse Eisenberg for The Social Network the year after Zombieland. But there's also
a winner now.
A winner in Emma Stone, who, of course, won for La La Land. So it'll be interesting to see a trailer for this, because I have a feeling they're gonna try to capitalize on Academy Award nominee Woody Harrelson, Academy Award nominee Jesse Eisenberg, Academy Award winner Emma Stone, and Academy Award nominee Abigail Breslin. That's going to be pretty cool. And so I believe that this has been, they've been trying to make this happen for a while. I think as recently as 2016, wasn't it, like Ruben Fleischer was going to direct? I think that he might be, free and clear to do that if he finishes Venom in time. So I think that's entirely possible that could happen. But there was also the TV series that they were going to do, which the pilot didn't do anything, so they didn't pick it up. I never saw it. I've heard about people who read the pilot script and said that it was awful. So I don't know. In any case, this is pretty exciting. I'm a big fan of the first one. I'm excited to see these characters come back together. I really wish and hope that they do another thing where they bring on, some big gigantic celebrity cameo and then kill him off immediately. That would be really fun. Because I think that's a joke that works, and if it works, bring it back. In any case, big news. Excited about this. Bryan, I'll go to you first. Are you pretty excited, and what are your thoughts about the first movie?
Yeah, I adore the first Zombieland a lot. I remember when it came out, I was in 6th grade, and it was one of the first R-rated movies.
Stop talking.
Stop it. Stop. Let me talk. It was one of the first R-rated movies I saw in theaters, and I remember when it had come out, there was like a trend for about a week where people called me Columbus, because when I was in 6th grade, I had really insane curly hair, like Jesse Eisenberg curly hair. So they kept calling me Columbus, and I'm like, who? Like, why are you calling me Ohio? Like, what is the purpose of that? But then I saw the movie, and I was blown away. It gets better and better as I've watched it over the last few years. I cannot believe that the movie's almost 10 years old. That's absolutely insane to me. Um, yeah, I think it's incredible. It holds up very well to this day. You can watch it any time of the year. Some people think it's only good at Halloween because, there's zombies in it. But honestly, you can watch it any time of the year, and it really wouldn't matter. I never wanted to do this, but I gotta correct Joel on this. So Joel said that when this movie had come out, only Abigail Breslin was an Oscar nominee. Woody Harrelson was actually nominated for an Oscar in the 90s for Larry Flint. So
and he was also, I think he was also nominated that very year.
Yes, for The Messenger.
Yeah, for The Messenger. I had forgotten that he was nominated for Larry Flint, though. Yeah.
No, it's totally fine. Honestly, I kind of forgot he was nominated, but then I just looked it up and I'm like, oh, all right.
That does make more sense because it didn't sit right in my head but I never looked it up, that he hadn't been nominated before Three Billboards.
No, it's totally fine. But I do hope that this happens. I've been wanting this to happen for years, but I would only want it to happen if the original cast and crew come back. Obviously, if these four come back, it's going to be great. It is going to feel weird seeing them, considering the fact that now one of them has an Oscar, and it's just crazy to believe that how far all four of these actors have come since the movie has come out, and if Ruben Fleischer does direct it, I think that would be the best thing. Even though, honestly, I'm very mixed on his work post Zombieland. I think Zombieland's the only thing of his that I really like. 30 Minutes or Less was okay. Gangster Squad was Venom, it could go either way. I hope it's good. I really do. I have some optimism, but it's kind of right now. And with the writers, obviously the writers of the first Zombieland wrote the movie that came out this weekend that we're going to be reviewing. And, I hope this movie works. I was reading an article and they said that we hope we could start shooting in early 2019. So, they'll have enough time to, process this, and hopefully the actors can clear their schedules. I just hope this happens, And if it does come out next year, that would be really great because it'll be 10 years since the first. Will it be as good as the first? I have no idea. Will it be on the same level? I hope so. So, yeah, I'm hopeful that this could happen, and I do really want it to happen. I've been wanting this to happen for years, but only if it were in the right hands.
What's really interesting before Chase takes over is it'll be especially weird just because the fact of where some of these actors have gone since this.
Yeah.
So, because you have after that came out, The Social Network happened for Eisenberg, and then after The Social Network, following that, he kind of picked up a reputation of being hard to work with.
Yeah.
And he's obviously not a super interview, as any interview that you watch with him will reveal. He's kind of a little bit, he's a little cold. So it'll be interesting to see him come back, knowing that, just after the fact, because before that, he was kind of still coming up. He had done a few movies, but that was kind of the one that put him in the in kind of the public eye. That was sort of around the time that Emma Stone was making it big, because then she had Easy A.
Yeah.
They both had big moments in 2010, but then they had this big moment together in Zombieland before that. So it'll be interesting to see them all come back.
And the other thing that's kind of funny, and I didn't think about it till now, the two movies that Jesse Eisenberg had in 2009 were both named Land. It was this and Adventureland. Yeah, so I find that kind of funny.
Yeah. And that one was with Kristen Stewart.
Yes. First of 3 collaborations.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, we'll hand this over to Chase. I'm pretty sure you're a huge fan of the first movie. I don't think we've ever actually talked about it, but you're a fan of it, right?
Well, listen, if you can start out your movie with any type of Metallica song, I'm gonna love it. That's still one of my favorite openings ever. The slow-mo From Whom the Bell Tolls. The zombies chasing people in slow-mo. It's so great because it gets you into the mood. And how kind of just energetic and stylish this movie is as a zombie film. It was completely different, when I watched it back in the theaters for the first time, because I didn't know what to expect. I was like, oh, cool, zombie film, but it just had so much flair and just uniqueness to it that I thought it stood out amongst the rest, and it's one of my favorites, and I absolutely love Woody Harrelson in that movie. He completely makes that movie. If he was not in it, it wouldn't be as memorable, just because he's such a great character, and he really
Where
just
are
has
you,
fun with
spongy yellow delicious bastards?
he just has fun with it, and it's just like that's what you want to see in this type of movie. Just another fun one. I do think, since it is Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, they're very sharp guys, and I have a feeling that they're going to play off the fact that the sequel is going to come out 10 years later, and it's probably going to take place 10 years after, or maybe relatively close to that. I have a feeling that they're going to kind of play with that time frame a little bit, because they're the type of writers that love to kind of wink at the audience a little bit. So I just hope they deliver another home run, because they're very unique writers. They have a different style than most, and I appreciate it.
They definitely need to, now that Abigail Breslin is 22.
Yeah.
Which is insane. Okay. It's crazy. Just because I've been following her career since Signs, maybe even before that. Mm-hmm. So it's weird that she's 22. Stop growing up, Abigail Breslin. Okay. So another bit of news. Basically, Bradley Cooper has been kind of MIA for the last 3 years, except for Rocket and just a couple of cameo appearances. But that's mostly because he's been conceiving of and making his movie that he's directing this year, A Star Is Born, which is the remake of the it was Judy Garland, right? I think movie where he's got Lady Gaga in the role. And so, but he's lining up projects for after that occurs, and he's got two new ones that have broken out. One is going to be a reteam with Clint Eastwood, who is going to star in this movie, as well as direct it. It's called The Mule, and I'm going to just read this official logline. In The Mule, Clint Eastwood stars as Earl Stone, a man in his 80s who is broke, alone, and facing foreclosure of his business when he is offered a job that simply requires him to drive. Easy enough, but unbeknownst to Earl, he's just signed on as a drug courier for a Mexican cartel, and also hit the radar of hard-charging DEA agent Colin Bates. Now, Bates is going to be played by Cooper. I love this premise. Pretty terrific premise. It's going to be interesting to see Eastwood direct himself. I believe that it's his first starring role since Trouble with the Curve, and it's the first one that he's directed himself in since Gran Torino. So, it'll be interesting to see him back on screen. He's certainly one of the, he's a great actor. Say what you will about him as director recently, but he's a great actor. So I'm really looking forward to this, as long as he, takes it with more. A better approach than he did to a certain Train movie that came out recently. That'll be great if he could do that. And then the other one is kind of warring with another similar project, and it's a Leonard Bernstein biopic. Of course, Bernstein was the one who composed a bunch of music, but including the West Side Story soundtrack. And we've already got a project about this called The American, which is not a remake of the George Clooney movie. It is a Leonard Bernstein biopic directed by Cary Fukunaga and starring Jake Gyllenhaal. But that one seems to be in trouble. Everything that Cary Fukunaga touches seems to be in trouble before it gets made at this point. And that one is the latest one because Bradley Cooper has announced that he wants to do his own biopic just called Bernstein. And that one has won the exclusive rights to use Bernstein's music. Spielberg and Scorsese are on board to produce this, and I think that it's pretty cool. I don't know much about Bernstein, but I'm certainly interested to find that out. I kind of hope both of these get made, but whatever the case, it'll be interesting to see which one wins out and which one, if for instance, if both get made, which one's better. So. This particular one, the one with Cooper, is going to be co-written by Josh Singer, who's fresh off of Spotlight and The Post. So, interesting bit of news all around. Chase, I'll go to you first this time. What are your thoughts about all this?
I mean, this all sounds pretty great. I mean, to start with the mule first. Actually, before I even start on that, because I was looking up his filmography as you were talking, the last role he was in where he actually appeared as, a live body and not a talking raccoon was in War Dogs. I'm like, oh, wow, that was a long time ago. Which, by the way, that's a great one if you guys haven't seen it. But to go on the mule first, I'm a little hesitant because of Clint Eastwood. I'm sorry, but the Train movie, as you so call it, it's awful. Like, I felt like I walked out of the theater and I felt like I had to call Clint and talk him down as if I was his parent and tell him I was disappointed. And Clint Eastwood, like, he looks like a sun-dried saddle, and I'm the one that has to be the parent to him. And I felt like that was a complete misfire. It was one of the worst things I've seen this year. But the Mule fascinates me because of the writer. It's actually from the same writer that did Gran Torino, and Gran Torino is awesome. However, he also wrote The Judge, and I heard from several people that have seen it. It's whatever. He is also attached to Narcos, so I'm actually more excited for the writer in this situation than the actual director. But I'm with you, though. The premise does sound really fascinating, and I didn't really care for American Sniper, but I can acknowledge that Bradley Cooper was really good in that movie, and there were some good aspects about that movie. So if they can just kind of take the goodness from that, mix it in with the Gran Torino, greatness, and put it into a movie, I think The Mule could work out. As far as the Bernstein pick goes, I'm kind of with you. I don't really know much about this composer, and I'm all down for it if Bradley is in it. I don't know about his directing style because we have not seen A Star Is Born yet, but Josh Singer writing it is a stamp of approval for me. So I actually think both of these could be something, but I am worried that Clint Eastwood will have to retire directing soon or something. I feel like just the past few of them have just kind of slipped for me, so I don't know if we'll get back to that greatness, but if he wants to keep swinging away and keep trying, I'm all for it. I'm just telling you that if we're talking about the last thing that he did for us, it was atrocious. So that is why I'm worried.
I will say that I think that the last thing such and such did for us idea is noble, but I don't know if I quite get that, because, like, what if, okay, Francis Ford Coppola, what if, the follow-up to whatever Jack was, for instance, if Jack, I don't know if you like Jack or whatever, but I'm just saying, like, if we both watched Jack right now and didn't like it, and then something came out after it, I don't know if it's fair to say what the last thing he did for us is Jack, because he also did The Godfather. He also did Apocalypse
and that's
Now.
true. And
So,
I know Clint has got his stout in the industry, but when you have a movie that's coming out and like he's directing and you're like, okay, that could be cool, but the last thing I did see from him did burn me a little bit. So you have to take that into consideration. I can completely watch that and turn around and go, oh wow, The Mule was fantastic, and then I will be back on his side again. But
I got you. That makes a little more sense.
Well,
I guess.
like the past few for me have not worked. So like he has been hitting strike after strike after strike in front of me. So that's why I'm a little hesitant. Now you're right. I could probably ease up on the whole one movie thing, but Clint has had a string of poop in front of my eyes, and so that's why.
I mean, and then also to turn it around, what if suddenly Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer made a good movie,
that's
and then
what
the
I'm
next
saying.
movie?
Then maybe I would give them the benefit of the doubt and be like, you know what, that wasn't bad. But
No. What I'm saying is then you go into their next movie, and then the idea would be the last one they gave me was good, but then you have to remember everything before that. True. But I do get that. That is a good point, for sure. For me, the two before the last one were really good. I'm a huge fan of Sully. I know that a lot of people are not, but
okay,
I'm
I take that
big
back.
fan of that.
Sully was solid. It wasn't like anything groundbreaking, but it was solid.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that, and I'm actually also a big fan of American Sniper. I know that a lot of people find it dull or potentially ahistorical, but but the ahistorical thing is dumb because movies are movies and real life is real life. But But for me, it was I've seen it I think 3 times, maybe twice, whatever, twice or 3 times, and it just really works for me. It's on my top 10 that year.
He was good in the role, though. I fully acknowledge that Bradley Cooper was fantastic in that movie. Like, he gained weight, he changed his accent, and he embodied this person. I didn't even see Bradley Cooper in the role. That's how good he was.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Brian, what about you?
I'll start with the Bernstein biopic. I think it sounds really interesting that Bradley Cooper might potentially tackle this role and also direct it. Now, from what I've heard about the Star Wars Born, they released some footage at CinemaCon about a month ago, and apparently the footage was really well received. Obviously, we haven't gotten the trailer yet. I would think we would get one within the next month or two because the movie does come out in like September, October. I mean, I don't want to like say that Bradley Cooper can't direct. I can't really judge until obviously we see this movie. But this Bernstein biopic definitely could be interesting. It is a shame that it's going basically head to head with the one by Fukunaga and Jake Gyllenhaal, because I love Fukunaga. You know, he hasn't really done anything in quite a long time. The last thing he did was that Netflix, what was it called, Beast of No Nation?
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't done anything since then. He was supposed to direct it, but then that fell through. He's got that Netflix show coming out later this year with Jonah Hill and Emma Stone, Maniac, which sounds really awesome. But I don't know how to feel about the Bernstein biopic. As long as, like, it would be a real shame if both of them get made. I don't want anyone to, like, drop it, but, like, it's just very complicated to be in a situation where you kind of make the same exact movie. It's like, you know, with the whole like Boston Marathon movie, like there was like the whole like debacle where there was like 3 being made at one time, like Patriots Day and then Stronger, then there was supposedly some other one, but that hasn't been made yet, or I don't know if it's going to be made. But I don't know, I'm pretty optimistic about this Bernstein biopic if it goes through. Now with The Mule, the premise sounds really wonderful. It sounds really interesting and fascinating. But I don't know. I might have to agree with Chase a bit on this. Clint Eastwood, you know, he's so hit or miss now. Like, you just don't know how it's going to go when he directs film. Now, I didn't see the Train movie. I didn't get around to it, honestly.
You don't need to.
I kind of did. I know I don't have to. I usually go out of my way to see Clint's films. But, you know, during this time, I just didn't feel like it. Also, I was too busy at that time, so I just decided to not bother with it. I'll wait for it to come on like HBO or something, so I don't have to, you know, waste my money. But it's going to be really interesting to see him act in a film that he's directed, because, like you said, the last time he acted in a film he directed was Gran Torino, which came out so long ago. And Trouble with the Curve.
10 years ago this December.
Oh, God.
December. Yeah.
You know, I remember one time I went to my grandparents' house, and my grandfather was watching it, and he didn't turn it off. I was like 11 years old. He was like, "Oh, I'm not turning this off." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." So I watched Gran Torino when I was 11 years old. I didn't know what was going on, but, you know, it's okay. But then obviously I watched it as I got older, and I loved it. But yeah, Trouble with the Curve, nah. Yeah, Clint Eastwood definitely has had a lot of hit or misses over the last few years. I've wanted him to go back to his older days, like the early 2000s, where he put out a hit like nonstop of like $1 Million Baby, Mystic River, which is my personal favorite film that he's directed. Letters from Iwo Jima, Flags of Our Fathers, Gran Torino. Like there was a period where he put out nothing but greatness. But now
Changeling too. That was the same year.
Changeling was really good. That was really good. And yeah, for the last like 10 years, he's been throwing out like hit or miss. Like Sully was really good. I will have to acknowledge I really liked Sully. American Sniper I thought was fine. I thought it was really well done, and Bradley Cooper was phenomenal. And I hated Jersey Boys. I was really disappointed with it. I'm a huge Frankie Valli fan, and I loved the Broadway show, so I was very disappointed with that. But otherwise, I mean, this could go very well. I hope it does. And the writer attached to it, I mean, you know, the fact that he wrote Gran Torino, it could be good. I hope it's good. We'll have to see.
And Brian, just to answer your question about the whole trailer thing, My prediction, they will drop the first trailer for A Star is Born either June 4th or 5th, and they will put it in front of Ocean's 8.
Ah, okay.
Because I'm looking at Warner Brothers' list right now, and Ocean's 8 is the only one I can see would be a good fit for that material. I mean, because they got Tag, Teen Titans, The Meg, Crazy Rich Asians, The Nun, and Smallfoot before A Star is Born, and I don't see A Star is Born playing in front of any of those. So I think we're going to see our first trailer for Bradley Cooper's directorial debut probably in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I can't wait to see what he's done with it. So I haven't seen the original movie, but we have like 6 copies at work or something. So I'll probably pick one up. All right, guys. So the last thing is more of a report. I don't even think I'm going to turn it over to Chase and Bryan because
no need to, because we don't know anything about. Well, we're about to talk about some of the trailers, but other than that, we don't really know anything else.
Right, exactly. So can happen this week. Of course, there's winners and such things. I guess some of the smaller ones or less newspaper headline worthy ones are the fact that The Camera Door was won by Girl, which is a transgender story that I've heard from transgender people is not ideal in terms of how to tell that story, but in any case, that one won. The Un Certain Regard was won by Ali Abbasi for Border, which I've been hearing great things about. But the big awards, Best Director went to Pawel Pawlikowski for Cold War, which is a movie that I'm really excited to see. Pawlikowski directed a movie from a few years ago called Ida, which was this really kind of Bergman-esque story about a nun who finds out that she's a Jew and goes on a kind of a road trip to try to figure out her identity after leaving her convent. And really kind of, I mean, it's deliberately paced, but it's also really funny. Great performance by the main actress, Agatha something. Anyway, forgot. Strange last name, and I just forgot the last name. But yeah, Cold War is his follow-up to that. I don't think he's directed anything since, so I'm looking forward to that movie, and he won Best Director for it. The Grand Prix was taken by Spike Lee for Black Klansman, which we're about to talk about the trailer for that movie in the segment. And then the big one, Palme d'Or, was won by Shoplifters. It's a movie by a director named Hirokazu Koreeda, who's basically been making a movie a year for like the last 20 years. It's insane. And I've seen a few of them, and I'm not as huge on this guy as most people, but the last one that he did was called After the Storm, which came out last year, and I like that one quite a bit. So it'll be interesting to see this one. I think he also has actually already directed one in between those. I think he's got another one coming out soon that I just haven't seen yet. But in any case, those are basically the highlights. Oh, and then, of course, Jean-Luc Godard had a movie there called The Image Book, and he won a special Palme d'Or for that because, it's Godard. So, in any case, that's pretty much it. And then also the Fupresci competition. The big winner there was a movie called Burning from a director named Lee Chang-dong, and I've been hearing amazing things about this movie. It's got Steven Yeun from The Walking Dead, I believe, and some other shows and a couple movies in the past couple years. This is kind of his first time working with Lee, who has been, I think he's kind of similar to Koreeda in that he makes like a movie a year or something, or a movie every couple of years or something. It's crazy. So those are pretty much the big pieces of news out of the Cannes Film Festival. And I'm going to use that to segue straight into our list of trailers. So, Chase, bring us into the first one.
All right, gentlemen, let's infiltrate hate with Black Klansman, which is spelled out in one long word with the KKK in the middle and the lowercase k as the middle K to separate the two. Anyways, this is the new film from Spike Lee. And let's all try to forget Chirac, because this trailer is fantastic, and it's based on a real story, so it focuses on a African-American police officer who is able to infiltrate a Ku Klux Klan and actually become one of the heads in that particular chapter. And when we first heard about this movie, we knew that Spike Lee was directing, Jordan Peele was going to produce it, and of course Jordan Peele is coming hot off of his Oscar win. And so I was really curious about it. Adam Driver's in it. Topher Grace. What a weird surprise. And of course, John David
as David Duke.
As David Duke. I was because I didn't know who he was playing, and once he announced who he was playing in the trailer, I was like, oh my god. Anyways, and then of course, the main gentleman that's infiltrating this Ku Klux Klan is John David Washington, aka the Denzel son, which is totally fine with me because talent runs in the family. I'd actually never seen really much with him in it. I mean, I know he's popped up in some things, but he's actually taken like a prominent lead role in this, and this trailer looks great. It looks like Spike is going back, to his roots and having that particular like kind of flashy style that he has, but also integrate real social commentary and inject some healthy doses of comedy, which you would never expect in a movie like this. And of course, with Jordan Peele producing it, I'm sure they actually, sat down and kind of talked about the tone, because the tone in this trailer is probably one of the biggest takeaways, because it's definitely a comedy first and foremost. But I'm sure, just like what I said with Spike's other movies, he's going to inject actual commentary in there and make it socially relevant, but just make it in a more kind of entertaining fashion. And I'm all down for it. Most of the comedy worked for me. Topher Grace's David Duke, oh my god. Adam Driver looks great. John David Washington looks great. It just looks like a fun time with a Spike Lee joint, and I'm actually proud to say that, just because I did not like Chirac at all, and I was like, because I was thinking to myself after I walked out of that movie, I was like, oh no, has Spike lost his touch? And I think, his antics kind of outweigh his filmography a little bit, because he does inject himself into the news nowadays with whatever comment he's saying. But with this trailer, this shows me that he is back on board, and I cannot wait for this. And I'm gonna flip it over to Joel first, because Joel, can you tell the lovely listeners out there what award this film won?
Yeah, it was the Grand Prix, which is basically for the director, which is Spike Lee. It's not a Best Director award technically, but Spike Lee did win this award, and he was the one who took it home. I'm super excited for this on the basis of this trailer. It really sells it, and it's interesting. John David Washington's first on-screen role was in Malcolm X.
Yeah, I was reading on that.
Yeah, so he's known Spike Lee since childhood, clearly. Because he was obviously a child 26 years ago. Well, I'm really hopeful. I didn't see Chirac. I don't think it really opened in theaters here, or if it did, I missed it. So I missed that one. But Do the Right Thing is one of my 5 favorite movies of all time, or so. And so this looks to be sort of in that arena. I don't want to say league, because that's hard to say, but yeah, I love this cast. I love the Topher Grace as David Duke is weirdly perfect, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He looks like him. He looks like young David. He looks like young David Duke. So and then obviously Adam Driver as the cop playing the character that the John David Washington character.
Joel, I would like, could you
creates on the phone.
Could you announce to everyone Adam's character name, because it's awesome.
I actually forgot the character name. Hold on one second. So
I want Joel to say it without laughing, because it's because when you watch the trailer, you're like, all right, everything looks cool, and then when you do a little bit more research, you're like, all right, who's playing what? And then his name is really awesome.
I just failed it. Flip Zimmerman.
Officer Flip Zimmerman.
Great name. This thing has a great cast. There's Harry Belafonte. Holy crap. Corey Hawkins, Dr. Dre, in other words.
Oh, yeah, I forgot he was in it.
Yeah, Ryan Eggold. The people who have watched The Blacklist will recognize him as Tom Keene, who very important to that show. Also, Laura Harrier, who was the love interest, the prom date in Spider-Man: Homecoming.
That's right.
Is in this. Alec Baldwin is in it. So really interesting cast, and with Jordan Peele directing and Spike Lee co-writing. I mean, it's just crazy. I can't wait to see this. So, yeah, it's a great trailer. Great trailer. And you're right. I mean, it really does like push hard on that the comedy of it, and I think that that's really important because it's clearly going to be a mixture of comedy and drama. But I think that there needs to be sort of an absurd, like they're kind of approaching the absurdity of the KKK in a certain way, which in addition to being a horrifying group is kind of a stupid one. The existence of them is just stupid in general, and so I think that it's important for a movie to, as important as it is to uncover the awfulness of it, the absurdity is also there, and so I think that this could very well do that.
Well, and I want people to know, like, if you do not want to watch the trailer and you want to go in blind, if you want to know a perfect representation of the tone in this movie, look at the poster. The poster is a perfect clash of that comedy, but also it looks like it's going to be, somewhat serious. So just look at the poster, and that will pretty much encapsulate like what this movie is. But Brian, like, did you see Chirac? Have you?
And what Spike Lee movies have you seen?
I was going to say, because like I don't think we've ever talked about Spike Lee.
I did not see Chirac. The last Spike Lee movie that I watched was unfortunately the remake of Oldboy.
Oh God, that one was pretty bad.
Sucks. It's awful.
It's amazing how in 5 years Josh Brolin can have a complete turnaround in his career.
Yes, huge turnaround. To be honest, I haven't really seen a lot of Spike Lee movies. I've seen Malcolm X, He Got Game, 25th Hour, Inside Man. Miracle of St. Anna fucking sucks. I despise that movie. I've always have. To be honest, I've seen very little of Spike Lee's career. I'm one of the only like 4 people on earth that has not watched Do the Right Thing yet. I unfortunately, they showed it in my first year of college, but it just happened to be the one time that I missed class. The one time I missed class, I was very pissed off about it, and I just never got around to watching it. I think they just put it on Netflix, so
now you don't have an excuse that I will accept at least. So
I'm gonna watch it as soon as possible. I really do want to watch it. That some of the Gotta Have It are like the 2 that I really want to watch.
Yeah, same here. And it's interesting because recently at work we just came into possession of a bunch of new copies of his movies on DVD. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the coincidence was. Like literally, new copies means that vendors send them to us, not customers, because you can sell movies to us, but these were new copies, which means that they were sent to us by a vendor, and I'm not entirely sure what the coincidence was. It was within the past couple of weeks. I don't know if they're like paying attention to Cannes or what, but it's interesting that happened. So we got like School Days and Jungle Fever and She's Gotta Have It and all of that stuff. And I need to see those 3. I need to see He Got Game. I haven't seen that one. 25th Hour is a masterpiece. I absolutely love that movie. And if people have not seen it, that's another one that we got a new copy of. So I don't know what happened, but they just decided to send us a bunch of his movies. And Do the Right Thing has some of the finest cinematography in the history of the format in terms of color. So I'm telling you, like in any context, that movie is beautiful, whether it's DVD or Blu-ray or whatever. So yeah, definitely get on that because it is amazing, and it was. One of the very few movies during their run together that Siskel and Ebert agreed was the best movie of its year. So, yeah, and it was like far and away for both of them the best movie of 1989, which I doubt that I would ever be able to see a movie as good as that one from my birth year. So, yeah, it's a masterpiece is too like soft a term for that movie. It's a landmark, and so yeah, can't wait for you to discover that. It was within the past couple of years that I did, and I mean, honestly, on occasion, scenes from that movie just pop up in my head. It's one of those kinds, and so I can't wait to see him, potentially back in that arena. So Yeah, the last thing I saw from him was a little thing called The Sweet Blood of Jesus from 2014, which is a vampire movie, which was fine, but it's kind of a minor thing for him. So,
Yeah.
In any case, that was a great trailer. I guess I'll bring us into the next one, and this is Bohemian Rhapsody. This is very much a teaser, much more than it is a trailer, but of course it's the story of Freddie Mercury and the the coming together of the members of Queen, and also obviously a litany of their songs which are used in the trailer. So it's a pretty solid trailer. It looks like a fairly typical biopic. I'm hearing like conflicting rumors that it completely ignores the AIDS crisis, which is weird to me because that's almost the entire point of their story. But I don't know. I've also heard from people who saw it at a test screening that it doesn't. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but the trailer totally hides that part of the story. In any case, it looks pretty solid. Like I said, kind of typical biopic for a music group, but visually pretty stunning. And I'm liking the flashes that we get of Rami Malek's performance as Mercury. So I like this. Bryan, I'll go over to you first. I know that you apparently had a strong reaction to this trailer, so I'll let you tell us what it is.
Yeah, the thing about me when it comes to music is that anything classic rock related is like my favorite kind of music. I adore rock music so much. I've been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's probably my favorite place on earth. It's in Cleveland, and it's just when I went there for the first time, it made me cry because I've been a huge rock and roll fan for most of my life, for basically the second half of my life. For the last 10 years, I've been a huge rock and roll fan thanks to my dad. It's one of the things that me and him bond over heavily, and I love Queen so much. Like, their music is so influential and so epic and so relaxed and mixed emotions throughout all of their songs, and it's just amazing. Even to this day, they're still awesome, even though they're no longer like a thing. It's just wonderful, and honestly, like, I've been following this movie for like so long. Like, this movie's been in the making for so many years. At one point, Sacha Baron Cohen was supposed to play Freddie Mercury, and that fell through. And then a few years later, they brought it back with Rami Malek joining the cast as Mercury. And I have to say, this trailer is, first of all, it's one of the best edited teasers I've ever seen in my life. For someone who goes to film school, like, this is the kind of trailer that I've dreamed of editing if I ever do anything like this with my own life. Like, first of all, the combination of all the songs mixed with Another One Bites the Dust is just insanely good. I don't know how they did it, but they did it very, very well. The glimpses we have of Malek as Freddie Mercury are pretty great in my opinion. I wasn't all for his casting at first, but I have to say I'm all for it now, judging from this minute and a half teaser that we've gotten. I'm really excited for the movie. I love music biopics. We haven't had a good one in quite some time. And like I said, Queen is just one of my favorite groups, and I'm really excited to see how it's brought to the big screen. Now, the thing with me that I'm most curious about is who's going to get directorial credit. Bryan Singer directed this film for about 4 months, and then he got fired from production about a few weeks before they finished filming. And then Dexter Fletcher, who directed The Eagle, came onto this. So we have no idea who's going to get directorial credit for this. I don't know, honestly, but I really do like the style that is shown in the trailer. The cinematography is absolutely luscious and bright and vibrant, which really works for the time with Queen because their music is so energetic and loud and exciting. I'm very excited for the film. I hope it's good. I hope it's not like a situation like Jersey Boys where it sucks, but I'm very hopeful. I'm always hopeful for these music biopics, and yeah, those are my thoughts. I'm really excited for this film.
Richard, real quick, sorry, I keep cutting off Chase before he starts, but in any case, I will just say, if I were to have a list of 15 or so songs that kind of define my taste in music, 3 of them belong to Queen, so I'm a pretty big fan as well. We have music that plays at work. It's actually a corporate rule. We have to. So there's a big Queen fan at work, and we play greatest hits their greatest hits, one of their greatest hits albums, like just straight through, constantly. And then I think that we also have another of their albums that we play, and so I'm pretty like regularly, hearing their music like multiple times a week, and Bohemian Rhapsody is one of the most important songs in the history of rock music, but it's also one of the best. And then you also have We Will Rock You, which I know like it's kind of a boring answer in terms of being one of the favorites for people, but it's a great song. And then Fat Bottom Girls is absolutely amazing.
Agreed.
And so I'm really excited, like probably more than anything for the recreations of some of these songs, because I know that they have rights to them. So I'm really excited to see Rami Malek kind of be in character in every sense of the term, but mostly in the performance scenes. So and also I'm maybe not quite as like up to date on every single thing about rock music as you are, Brian, but I love it too. Classic rock, and The Clash's "London Calling" is one of my favorite songs of all time. And we have this stuff playing at work a lot, and various different kinds of bands, but it's certainly in this arena, and it's a lot of fun to listen to. So Chase, what were your thoughts on this trailer?
Yeah, I think it's a solid teaser. There's not really much about what's really going on. It's just really nice glimpses of how the movie looks with its cinematography, and just the kind of energetic tone with all the songs being edited together. I'm one of these people that hasn't really seen much of Rami Malek. Believe it or not, I've only seen the first season of Mr. Robot, and I remember his ass in Need for Speed. You thought that moment was forgotten in film history, but he streaked, and I saw his ass. Well,
I've been watching him since a completely different role from Freddie Mercury, a brief role in the eighth season of 24.
Oh,
where
I didn't know he was in that.
He had a brief role as a suicide bomber who is partly American born, and Jack Bauer has to go in and try to save him, and then doesn't end up doing that. But
spoiler alert, thanks.
Spoiler alert. It's actually like before even the middle of the season, so it's not really a spoiler. But he was intense in that, man. He like my dad, now knows who he is because of that role, and so whenever he sees him, he's like, "Oh, hey, it's that weird looking dude from 24," because he allows his eyes to like bug out even further than they do on Mr. Robot. Like I've seen the first few episodes of that show, and they certainly bug out a lot, but he like doesn't blink at all in his role in 24. It's insane, and so
he is the master at staring down. It's just the trailer was solid. To answer Brian's question about the whole director thing, I mean, there's a certain rule for the DGA, with the percentage that the director was on set, and the fact that he shot most of it. It's like who do you give credit for, especially when he's kind of under hot water and has been for many decades. It's like, do you really want to? Because they can't stiff him because of stuff he's done. Like by contract, if he is shot over a certain amount, he has to be credited. So I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they'll just do a Justice League situation, put Fletcher as director, maybe Singer as writer, producer credit.
Well, it would actually be the opposite way, but yeah.
Well, I mean that's what I hope for, but I know in reality it's going to be the Justice League situation again. The trailer was solid, and I can't wait to see more. And what Joel said was kind of an understatement. Most of Queen's songs are classics, like they just are. Like one of my favorite ones to listen to like amp up, like as I'm walking. These horrid streets as I go to work and stuff is I like listening to Bohemian Rhapsody quite a bit, and it's a chaotic song, but it works, and like that's the perfect representation of how Freddie Mercury was. Is in the trailer when he's like, and next we're gonna do the operatic section. And they're like, what? And it's true. It's like, why would you switch from this amp up and then hit it with an operatic section? It in your head it does not work, but that song works, and it's the kind of like frantic kind of genius mind that Mercury had, and I do hope they show the AIDS portion, because that was kind of a big part of his life. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, the AIDS part, his homosexuality.
Exactly. So I mean, we'll just have to see when the movie comes out.
Well,
but
technically, Bryan, his bisexuality, because he did.
Bisexuality,
yeah,
true.
his bisexuality.
But I mean, we'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see what they do, because if they, I don't know, man, if they ignore whole swaths of his life to kind of make it into this, not PG rated literally, but kind of a PG rated adaptation of his life, that might not go over well. But honestly, regardless of what he's become, Bryan Singer, I don't think he would allow that to happen. So I feel like I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do, because I'm kind of cautiously optimistic more than really super duper optimistic, if you will.
Like you figure with Singer in the director's role, because he's gay himself. Like you figure like he would want to push that storyline.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it all depends on what the screenplay does too. So, yeah. But I'm excited to see what they've done here.
Now, Joel, I'm a little upset, and I had to bring this on air because because Joel did the notes this week. So Joel gave himself the Queen trailer. Okay, I'll let that slide. I'm a little angry because I wanted to talk about it. And then he gives our guest, our lovely guest Bryan, who we love dearly, he gives Bryan a trailer to a movie I've been looking forward to for years now. I even had it on my most anticipated list for this year, and he gave it to someone else. Bryan, what trailer is this, and why am I so angry? Because this trailer is awesome, and I wish I could talk about it first.
Well, see, I wanted to talk about the Bohemian Rhapsody trailer, but it's okay. So
Joel was just playing with fire on this episode. He's like, who can I piss off the most?
I think he pissed both of us off equally.
I like to, I've mentioned this before, audience, but this is what I like to do. I like to alphabetize the movies that have trailers, and then go down. So Chase is kind of the original host, and then I'm the one who came in later, and then the guest host, and so I alphabetize them, and then I go down the list that way. And it just so happened that Bryan got this trailer, so that's all.
Yeah, and it's funny. My name begins with a B, and I couldn't review any of the trailers that begin with B, so it is what it is. Okay, so the next trailer we're going to be talking about is The Happy Time Murders. Now, this comes from director Brian Henson, who is no stranger to directing stuff involving the Muppets. He has directed The Muppets Christmas Carol and Muppet Treasure Island, two of my favorite films when I was a brash young man. He's also done a lot of stuff involving puppetry. He's obviously the son of the late, great Jim Henson. So this film is something that I never expected to come out ever. So I'm going to read the plot synopsis from IMDb. When the puppet cast of a 1980s children's TV show begins to get murdered one by one, a disgraced LAPD detective turned private eye puppet takes on the case. Now, here's the thing with this movie. This movie's not for families at all. This is a hardcore R-rated movie. Now, this is similar, when I was watching the trailer for this, I thought back to 2 years ago when Sausage Party came out, because I bet you there were many people that saw the Green Band trailer for Sausage Party. They're like, oh, this is some family film. No, it's not. It's not for families at all. That's the vibe I get when I watch this trailer. I'm... like Chase, I've been waiting years for this. I remember hearing about this a long time ago, and I'm like, oh, I would love to see a movie like this. And then, the trailer comes out, and oh my God, this movie doesn't pull any punches. Oh my God, it goes places that I never expected in my life to just witness. When I was watching this trailer and the title comes up, Happy Time Murders, and then the last 30 seconds happens, I thought to myself, if this movie was made like 10 years ago, I don't know, people would have wanted it, but now, it's happening, and it's just, oh my God, I never pictured anything like this to happen. No, I'm really excited. It looks really funny. It looks really entertaining. Melissa McCarthy plays the human lead. She looks like she's going to have strong comedic timing in this movie. It's been a while since she's had a really strong movie. Obviously, she just had one come out last weekend, but I've heard mixed things about it, and I haven't seen it, so I can't really comment on it, but it looks like a lot of fun. I've always loved crime films, and when it's mixed with comedy, that's something I also find really awesome. Neo-noir is something I've always admired. I just love crime films, and when it's mixed with comedy and neo-noir, I'm just like, that's a perfect combination. Then you add puppets to it, I'm just like, wow. So I'm really curious to see how this one does. I hope it's good. Like, I have a feeling it's going to be funny, but I want it to be smart and clever with its humor. Like, I don't want it to be just raunchy to the point where it gets overused and it just doesn't work after a while. I think it could be really funny. I hope the trailers didn't show all the funny moments in the movie. I'm very confident in it. My favorite moment in the trailer was when she snored the stuff, then she passes out for like 50 seconds, then she comes back to life, and then the guy's like, well, fuck me. Maybe. Oh, that was great. I loved it. I'm very excited for this film, and I hope it's good. I really hope that this film is good.
Yeah, I mean, it looks basically like the Muppets mixed with Sausage Party mixed with Who Framed Roger Rabbit, in a certain way and in all of the best ways. I honestly laughed so hard that I'm pretty sure I was close to a coronary. I will quote somebody on this. I can't remember who it was, but anyway, somebody said that it looks so filthy that I'm not entirely sure how the last scene of this trailer, in context, doesn't get this movie an NC-17 rating. Because they're all about giving NC-17 to sexual content, graphic sexual content, and that's certainly a substance, let's just say a bodily fluid that is being expelled for many, many, many seconds, and that is not allowed in an R-rated movie. So I don't know how they're going to get away with it unless they cut that scene, and I doubt that they will, considering it's so popular. Everybody seems to have cracked up at that point, at that part. So, yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how far this goes. I was a big fan of Sausage Party a couple years ago, so I'm looking forward to something in that vein again, and also an August release, I believe, right? So,
yep.
Yeah, kind of the perfect release for something like this. I really like. Some of the time I really like raunchy humor when it goes to very far places. That's why I like the Farrelly brothers when they're R-rated and all that, because they go to these places on occasion. And movie 43 notwithstanding. So yeah, I think it's an excellent trailer. I think it actually looks like a genuinely interesting mystery that the McCarthy character has to solve. Because stuff like that is interesting, a serial killer, I think that the comic timing involved in the actors taking on the roles of the puppets is really strong, and at least on the basis of this, so I'm really excited about this. It might be my favorite trailer of the week, actually. Yeah, I think that this is my choice, just to kind of give it away.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. Yeah, no, it's a fantastic trailer to really kind of give you a sense of what the movie is about and the type of humor it's going to really kind of punch for. I mean, it does not hold back. And the thing is, I was thinking about this too because as I was just shocked that I was like, there's no way this movie's going to get away with an R rating. And I was thinking to myself, this is the whole kind of robot situation again, or what I mean by this. Where our MPAA in this country is it's ass backwards. They favor violence and all that stuff over sexual stuff, and they find that taboo. While I believe sexual stuff is it's natural, and that's we're humans. It's biological. Get over it, and then that should be kind of how Europe sees it, where it's like you can be a little bit more freely with it, and then they demonize the violence. And what I mean by the robot situation is that if you have a movie where someone kills someone and it's like shown pretty graphically, it's slapped with an R. If you show someone killing someone graphically and it's like a person killing a robot, it gets PG-13. It will never, ever go above that because it's not human, it's not real, and they might use like green blood or something while it's still being graphic. And it's still, when I watch like the Transformers movies and stuff, with this one, the only way they're going to get away with it is because it looks like most of the raunchy stuff is coming from the puppets, and they're not people. And even like the jokes are filled with kid-friendly stuff. Like when Melissa McCarthy passes out, she uses a Twizzler to snort up like pixie sugar dust, and like that's not like, it's not an actual drug. It's more kid-friendly, even though it's told in an R-rated, kind of context. And it's the same thing with the last scene. It's silly string. Yes, it represents spunk, but it is silly string, and that's why they're going to be able to get away with it, because it doesn't actually resemble the act per se, because it's, because Joel's correct. It still has the context of what they're implying, but it's done with, like, I guess kid-friendly gloves. I don't know how to explain it, but that's the only way you're gonna get away with it, because it's pretty raunchy. And when I got done with the trailer, I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. But if I'm gonna be real, I do have that hesitation to where what Bryan brought up. The two things he brought up. One, I hope they didn't show all the funny stuff in the trailer, and the rest of the movie is nothing like that. And then two, I hope it's not just pure raunch. I hope it's a mixture of that raunch and kind of smart humor, utilizing the whole absurd idea of puppets and humans in the same world. Like, some of the stuff that made me laugh the most was actually some of the setup in the trailer where, it showed the humans and the Muppets interacting, like, the one human walking with the Muppet down the crosswalk, and the Muppet looks all goofy and shit. That's the stuff that makes me laugh. And then, of course, like with the Muppet lifting up the barbell, the one that's like jacking up on the beach, that made me laugh more than the raunchy jokes. So I'm hoping there's more of that in there mixed in with the raunch, and just kind of like a nice blend, because I love raunchy comedies, but it can get too much to where they're just trying too hard, not really expanding their humor and just going for the lowball stuff. I'm not saying that I'm, some person that just hates the lowball stuff. I laugh at stupid shit all the time. And so does Joel, and so does Bryan. It's whatever, it's just whatever hits you. Where if the joke is delivered in, a smooth way, lowbrow humor can work. But I am worried that it's just all raunch. But I'm not going to lie. The raunch stuff in the trailer worked. It just made me laugh so hard, and I can't wait for it. Like, one of my favorite moments is the cop that works with Melissa McCarthy in the movie. Joel McHale is in the trailer, and he looks at him, and he's just like, what are you, the fucking FBI? And he's just like, he's like, what does that stand for? He's like, fucking Big Eddie or something like that. It's stuff like that just amuses the hell out of me, just because they're puppets, and they're cursing, and there's one Muppet in the beginning that's asking to suck Melissa McCarthy's dick. I mean, it is one of the most insane things I've ever seen in a Red Band trailer, and I've seen a lot of Red Band trailers, but I cannot wait for it, as well as this next trailer. This trailer has caused a lot of controversy out of Cannes, which is great news for me, and I know for people like Joel, and now we're tempted to see it even more. And this one is called I don't know why I said that. The House That Jack Built. Now, this one comes from Lars von Trier. Of course, Melancholia, Nymphomaniac, of recent years. And, of course, Joel has seen some of his older stuff. I have not yet. I'm more in tune with his new stuff. But this one stars Matt Dillon, which, ironically, is hilarious in the sense that I just showed Joel There's Something About Mary for the very first time. So we just watched Matt Dillon be a creepo, like, private eye detective, and now he's going to be a serial killer as he plays Jack, and basically this just follows him throughout his kills and how it just, kind of affects him. And I'm hoping seeing the kind of psychological effects of a serial killer, because I do believe this movie will have substance. I know that Lars von Trier is notorious for trolling people. I know that he's notorious for making things very shocking. And so the story out of Cannes was that this movie is repulsive, it's violent, it's disgusting, and people walked out. I think it was, Joel, what did they say, like over half of the audience like walked out? Like it's one of the biggest walkouts I've ever read about. That just makes me want to see it even more. I'm not saying that I'm some Lars von Trier fanboy. I actually think all the trailers that come out for his movie are awful. Like they're actually like awfully edited. They're very weird, weirdly edited. It's just they're not well edited trailers. The thing I've always liked about Lars von Trier is just his filmmaking. I love Nymphomaniac, even the controversial ending. I love Melancholia. I still remember seeing that movie in theaters, and it was me and 3 other people. And I remember when the movie was done, like no one said anything. We just all kind of walked out and we were all depressed and stuff. That was definitely an experience. But I love that one. Antichrist is fine. I know a lot of people like that one. But I've started to just kind of enjoy his filmmaking. And like I said, including this trailer, his trailers are awfully edited. But why I'm so just kind of drawn towards him is because of the way his movies look. The kind of interesting storytelling that he always does, because he always interjects with, different footage from other stuff into his movies, and I kind of like that. I don't know, it might be awful to some people, but there's just kind of like this weird attraction I have towards his movies. I can't explain it, but I think it's just more fascinating than anything, and even though I didn't really like the actual structure of this trailer, I think Matt Dillon looks great and really kind of pushing his boundaries as an actor. I'm really excited to see this one. It's going to probably be violent and disgusting from a violent standpoint, but he's a serial killer. Like, what do you want? Like, I don't understand like why people are freaking out over this. It's like it's just whatever. But I think the only thing that I'm kind of hesitant about, and I know this is ironic of me saying this because I just saw his 500-hour long cut of Nymphomaniac. This movie is 2.5 hours long. I don't know if that's going to really kind of work with the flow of this story, just because it could get a little repetitive and a little stale if we just constantly just see him killing folks and not really seeing any context behind him as a character, like what he's thinking. That's the only thing I'm kind of worried about. But other than that, I do think it's visually an interesting trailer, and Matt Dillon is, one of the main reasons I want to see this. So, Bryan, what about you? Are you a fan of the Trier? And what do you think of this trailer?
Well, I haven't seen anything that he's done, so I haven't
wow.
I'm aware of his style. I've seen clips from some of his films. The one I want to watch the most is Melancholia, because I love Kirsten Dunst, so I kind of want to watch that the most out of all of them. Although Nymphomaniac does have my interest just because of the whole cast and everything. Here's the thing, like, the fact that you brought up that you're not a fan of his trailers, I thought I was going to be the only one that said, like, oh, I hated this trailer and everything. To be honest, like, the only reason why I'm slightly looking forward to this is for the cast, and that's really it. Matt Dillon is a criminally underrated actor, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think he's fantastic really at pretty much. I think he's great in pretty much anything he's in. Obviously, he was nominated for an Oscar for Crash. He's honestly one of the few things I like about that movie. And, he's been in a bunch of other stuff, too. Wayward Pines, he was in the first season of that. And
yeah, honestly, I love that show.
He worked so well there. That was a very, very, very good first season. I watched it, like, when it came out, like, 3 years ago, I think it was. And, he's been around since my dad was a kid. Like, Matt Dillon has been in the business since, like, the late 70s, early 80s. So this was when my dad was a kid. And, like, he was in a bunch of movies, like, big popular 80s movies. My Bodyguard. He was also in The Outsiders, which is one of the best coming-of-age films ever. One of my favorite films of all time. Obviously, yeah, there's something about Mary. Fantastic performance in that.
There's one that I really want to see is Drugstore Cowboy, which is Gus Van Sant movie.
Have not seen that.
Yeah, I've heard that one's amazing. That was, I think, I mentioned that Do the Right Thing was Ebert's #1 of the year, and I think that was his #2.
Ooh.
And so that one is one that we have at work, and I need to buy it. I haven't seen it. I just need to blind buy it because I've heard that it's great. It's along the lines of stuff like Bonnie and Clyde, which is
Yeah.
one of the great movies of all time, and Natural Born Killers. These stories of people kind of degrading into violence and decadence and all that. That's what I've been hearing. That one's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
but
very excited to see what he does in a Lawrence von Trier movie. Uma Thurman, I haven't seen her in the movie in forever. I honestly cannot remember the last time she was in anything. It's funny because I just interviewed her ex-husband 2 weeks ago, so it's just I completely forgot they were married. At one point, they both were in Gattaca together, and then they got married. And then the thing that gets me kind of most excited about this, and this is going to shock everyone, they're like, why are you more excited for this person than the lead actor? I have a huge crush, huge love for Riley Keough. I love her so much. I've loved her in everything that she's been in. She's one of my favorites working today. Obviously, there's a lot of talent riding on her. One of the reasons is because she's the granddaughter of Elvis, and she's just so likable in everything that she's in. She's really gorgeous, and she's very talented. Comedy, drama, horror, action. She's great in everything that she's in, so I'm really excited to see what she does in this one.
Well, you will get to see, apparently, and I apologize to our audience for the description that I'm about to say.
Oh, okay. I have to address that before Joel says anything. I am so sick and tired of people being hypocrites in the journalism industry. You're going to sit there and bitch and complain about people ruining Infinity War, but yet you're gonna spoil this movie. Like, who cares what scale the movie is? Like,
she gets her breast cut off in this movie.
Oh, that's a nice thing to hear.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about this movie is that it's extremely controversial. So not only
when isn't a film that he's made controversial? Like, all his films are controversial in some sense. But yeah, honestly, like, I wasn't a huge fan of the trailer, but I get it. That's kind of the style that he has. So I'm definitely interested in seeing this movie when it comes out.
I'm most interested. I don't think it's a very well edited trailer. I don't think it represents what the movie is from what I've heard. So
if you go back to any of his trailers in the past few years, like, they're awfully edited trailers.
Yeah, they are.
It's probably because they don't know how to market his movies. That's
right.
Pretty much, like, he's kind of unmarketable. I would be interested to go back because there's I've only seen 2 of his movies. Chase, I don't know where he's getting the idea that I've seen a lot of his older stuff. I've only seen Melancholia, which I thought was good, but I'm gonna have to revisit it. But the other one that I've seen is Breaking the Waves from 1996.
That's the one I was talking about because I remember you were talking about that a while back. I'm like, oh wow, he did that one, like, because that was from the 90s, right?
Yeah, that was 96. Had Emily Watson in it, and it's one of the best performances I think I've ever seen put on screen. It's a great movie, but it's also, got its own controversy. He does not have, let's say, a progressive view of women in his movies, and that's certainly an example of it. Although I think that it's also part of his process. So he tells stories of the victimizing of women. Clearly we have a movie where he has Riley Keough's breast cut off. So, that's kind of his thing. For me, it's not a good trailer, but I'm interested because of the controversy that has met the movie. All the walkouts, the responses, particularly in reviews to the movie, and just the whole. And also just the sort of the legacy surrounding it, because Von Trier was, he showed this at Cannes, where he had supposedly gotten a lifetime ban for making a joke that I rewatched just before the episode, and it's the most awkward 2 minutes in all of the internet, where he was having a press conference for Melancholia at Cannes in 2011 and was asked by a reporter about his German heritage, and then he goes off into this weird, like, sidebar about how he once thought he was a Jew, and then he found out that he had Nazi heritage, and then he started off on this weird rant about how he understands Hitler and he sympathizes with him, and then later claimed that it was a joke, even though in the context of this thing, he tries to awkwardly exit the the sentence by literally saying, "How can I get out of this sentence?" So clearly, it wasn't a joke. It was a mess up. I don't know what was going on, but Kirsten Dunst was sitting right beside him, and she literally, as the kids say, nopes out of or tries to nope out of the camera frame because it's the most awkward I think anyone has ever been sitting by anyone else ever. It is palpable awkwardness. And I mean, it's earned too because it's such a strange setup. He wasn't even answering the question correctly. It was such a weird thing, and so I kind of want to. I want to see it because of all that. I really want to see Nymphomaniac. I haven't done that yet, but I really want to watch the extended cuts back to back, and I don't have time. So I'll do that at some point. But in any case, for this one, I'm interested solely because of the controversy surrounding it. The plot doesn't really sound all that interesting to me. You know, just a serial killer kind of following his activities. It's essentially just, you know, hostile from the point of view of the torturers. But in any case, because of the controversy, I'm interested in this movie. Because of the trailer, I wouldn't be if I just had the trailer to work from. But you know, the cast though is interesting. I like Matt Dillon a lot, and I always have. I am with you, Brian. He's basically like the only thing about Crash that really works. But I've liked him in other movies, and it's interesting though. The other thing you mentioned about him trolling is the fact that he made that Hitler joke, and then he cast Bruno Ganz in this movie. Bruno Ganz played Hitler in a movie called Downfall. So it's just an interesting way for him to kind of fight back against that backlash by casting Hitler in his movie. And it's very interesting. So weird trailer, weird concept. Certainly, the touch of the vial, if you will, in that way. But I'll be interested to see the movie on the just kind of knowing that it's been met with this kind of response. So that's my thoughts on it. All right, so I guess that brings us into our next trailer. And I honestly think that we can kind of get these over with pretty quickly. So the first one is The Predator, which is a kind of reboot, I guess, of the Predator franchise via one of the people who starred in the first movie. Shane Black pretty sure he writes and directs this, and it stars a crazy cast. There's a bunch of people in this movie. Trevante Rhodes, although we don't see him in this trailer, Keegan-Michael Key, and everybody else has slipped out of my brain. Hold on. That's
because it's a forgettable trailer.
It's a really forgettable trailer. It looks like your regular generic action movie. It doesn't even honestly look as fun as Alien versus Predator was. It looks really kind of visually flat, which kind of surprises me. It has very little of the flash of the dialogue that Black is known for writing. As we know from Lethal Weapon, and I haven't seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, although I know that it's very popular for this. I've seen scenes from it, and it certainly has that same kind of sarcastic kind of vibe. And then Iron Man 3. The Nice Guys was pretty fun. So, I mean, this kind of looks whatever. I'll see it because we'll probably review it that weekend. But yeah, I'm not super excited for this. Anybody else have different thoughts?
Nope.
I mean, like, I'm hopeful because it's Shane Black, but yeah, the trailer was just so flat and it was just not exciting at all. Now, granted, it is a teaser. We don't know what the full trailer is going to be like, but because it's Shane Black and the cast is, in my opinion, fantastic. I hope this is good. I love the original, and I don't know. I was kind of disappointed with this teaser because of Shane Black. I love The Nice Guys. I liked Iron Man 3. I love Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I don't know how this is going to go.
Listen, for all those people out there that are bitching and complaining about Alien Covenant and Prometheus, just remember that they're doing this to Predator. Because I would even... Because a lot of people do not like the kind of new Alien movies, which baffle me because I love both of those movies. And then when they're like, okay, we're going to tackle Predator now. It's like, okay, I'm fascinated because they're doing a good job with the Alien movies, even though they're not doing well box office wise. Let me see what they can do. You add Shane Black and this awesome cast. It's like, okay, this can work. I am completely in agreement with Joel. It looks so flat. There's nothing visually interesting about this, and it looks like the same cinematography as almost as Alien vs. Predator Requiem, where you can't see a damn thing when the Predator shows up. Hey, let's shoot and light everything in the dark. Yeah, okay, cool.
Hopefully that's not the entire movie. I really hope
it's not, but like it just reminds me of that. And I'm like, they're not really doing anything unique with this. Who knows? Maybe it's more of a promotional error, and it's not really Shane Black's problem, and maybe they're making this look generic because they're marketing it generically. But I will always tell people this: Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is one of the best movies of the 2000 to 2010 bracket in film history. It's such a great kind of throwback to like those like film noir mixed in with like really slick comedy. It's really good stuff. And so Iron Man 3 is fine with me. And Nice Guys is really good. So I do have hope because I do like Shane Black, but this trailer does not represent well at all.
Yeah, it's pretty dire. So, Brian, do you have any more thoughts?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Well, that brings us to the final trailer,
which is even worse.
Even worse.
I want to hate myself. All right, I'll introduce this. Okay, the last trailer we're going to be talking about today is Robin Hood, starring Taron Egerton, Jamie Foxx, Jamie Dornan, and Ben Mendelsohn. This is like the 15th Robin Hood movie to ever come out in the history of mankind. The last one was the biggest snooze fest I ever saw in my life.
God.
The Ridley Scott directed one. Now this one, here's the thing. When I saw this trailer, I thought this was a Guy Ritchie movie. This literally looks like your typical Guy Ritchie movie. It reminded me so much of that piece of crap King Arthur movie that came out last year around this time. And I can't. This trailer was fucking horrendous. I hated it so much. The action looks awful. It looks very disgusting looking. It looks like it's not even going to mesh very well. I like the cast in the movie, but honestly, they're not going to save this movie. They're just not. I don't care about the Robin Hood storyline to begin with, so I don't see why this movie's needed. There are so many things that these actors could have been doing, but instead they do this Robin Hood movie. It looks horrible. It's a big no for me.
I just don't understand Lionsgate's motive, because they are a sinking company. They don't really have that many hits, but they want to toss $100 million plus budget at this. Like, when you look at the numbers, you look at the reviews, you look how people thought of the Russell Crowe one from a while back. You go, oh yeah, let's make another one. Like, what gives you the incentive to make this? Like, who is asking for this? The trailer looks so dull and generic. You thought the Predator movie looked bad. At least that movie's got Predator, where I can go, hey, Predator's cool. He's badass. There's nothing cool and badass about this movie. It's just like, I just don't understand why you would make another one. It completely reminds me of a Guy Ritchie movie, as Bryan stated. They use the slow-mo effect to make bow and arrows look cool. Stop it. It's not making it look cool. It's making it look dumb. And of course, they're going to slide with a PG-13 rating, and it's just going to be generic fluff for the teenage audience. And I don't understand. Joel, help me out. Like, why?
Okay.
Why is a Lionsgate executive? Because I'm gonna put you in that position. You're looking at your slate, right? And you're like, all right, we have a certain amount of budget. I think we got a $200 million budget for this year. Okay, cool. And you're looking at the slate. You're like, all right, I can do all these Nicolas Cage direct-to-DVD movies. Okay, that's going to cost me about $50 million. And then you look at, okay, we can do, I don't know, we can do this YA novel here, maybe throw $10 million at that. Okay, so we got a little bit left. Let's spend half of our budget on a Robin Hood movie that no one asked for, and the poster looks even worse than the trailer. So you as an executive, why would you greenlight this?
Because somebody asked me in the middle of a bunch of other stuff going on, and I just said, "Okay, sure, fine, sure." That's the only reason I can think of.
And this is
All
why
right,
you don't run studios.
Exactly. I'm gonna be completely honest. So I watched this trailer, I think like right before or in the midst of the film festival, and then I forgot it completely, and then I remembered it when I was making the notes yesterday, and then I made a note to myself, oh yeah, you should probably rewatch that since you don't remember anything about it. And I didn't do that, so I don't remember anything about this trailer. I don't see the need for this movie. I hated the Robin Hood movie that Ridley Scott made. It was so stupid and dull and visually ugly. I hate that movie. It's probably on my bottom 10 of that year, honestly. Or close to it if it's not on there. We're the worst of that summer's movies, and that summer also brought us Jonah Hex. It's worse than Jonah Hex. So well, I guess maybe not worse than The Last Airbender, but it's somewhere in that league. So yeah, I don't understand the reason for this movie's existence. I just don't get it. We don't need this movie. No one was asking for this movie. You shouldn't call it Robin Hood. You should have kept the original title that you had, which is Robin Hood Origins, to make it at least a little bit, or seem, even if it doesn't seem a little bit different than the other one. And Chase is exactly right. Making bows and arrows slow-mo is not cool. What you do is, you do what the Lord of the Rings did, and you have a character firing them so quickly that it's insanely hard to follow. That makes it look cool. Yeah, it's a stupid trailer that I don't remember. So I'll just say that you know what? Also, this comes out during it's the right before Thanksgiving. So Chase, I'm gonna say right now that there are too many other movies that week that are important. Probably gonna be like Widows or something, like something that's expanding.
Oh, you mean something good?
Yeah, there's something good. There's going to be other wide releases that come out. I have a feeling that I'm gonna completely ignore this movie and only see it on Blu-ray, if I see it at all.
Yeah, let's look at what's coming out that weekend. Creed 2, Wreck-It Ralph 2, Robert Zemeckis' new film.
Yeah, and then Widows is probably expanding from the previous week. So it's and then there's probably other stuff that's expanding. So yeah, this is like literally the most impertinent movie of that entire month. And so I suspect that Chase and I are this is the last time we're ever going to talk about this, because it's not big enough to talk about the second trailer. And then it's also not important enough to either of us to review it that weekend unless something insane happens and everything else moves. So I have a feeling that this is the last time we're ever actually going to talk about this in a non-box office way. That's what I'm guessing, because I can't imagine reviewing this on the show. I can't imagine with the week that it's coming out, unless they move it to some other weekend, and it's the most important thing that weekend, or something else happens and stuff moves from that Wednesday. I can't imagine seeing this in theaters. It just doesn't seem like it's going to happen. So it's a bad trailer, terrible. So, obviously, our favorite trailer of the week was Robin Hood. What was y'all's? I'm just kidding. No, the Happy Time Murders, I'm pretty sure, is all of our favorite trailer, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because Chase already said, so I don't even have to ask you.
Hashtag silly string spunk.
They should make that a thing. All right, guys. Well, we're moving into the review of the week, and that is Deadpool 2. This, of course, is a sequel to Deadpool from 2016, and comes from director David Leitch, taking over from where Tim Miller left off. And in this one, we find that Deadpool is avenging the death of Vanessa, played by Miranda Beck-Karen. That is not a spoiler, because it happens like in the first 10 minutes. It's the entire point of his arc in this movie. He decides that he desperately wants to receive a death scene that is more gutting than another superhero's recent death scene. Do you know who I'm talking about? Anyway, in any case, this one, the main plot has Cable, played by Josh Brolin, coming back in time to kill Russell, who's this 14-year-old mutant with the power of controlling fire. Meanwhile, Deadpool tries to assemble a team to fight Cable, or well, not really fight Cable, I guess, to prevent the death of this kid, and he also wants to join the X-Men overall, and but Colossus doesn't want him to. So that's basically the plot of the movie. It's fairly simple. So to kind of lead off with my thoughts about the first one that are so controversial, I don't think it's a bad movie at all. I think that it's perfectly pleasant as a piece of entertainment. I don't think it quite works as a movie though, and the reason for that is because a lot was made about the fact that Deadpool is a very subversive character, and while I think that that's true, I don't think that the movie he was in is very subversive, because really a lot of the appeal of the movie for the audiences, because a lot of people saw it, was the fact that it was so referential. It takes place at least partly within real life, because he's referencing things that take place in real life. But there's not really much that's subversive beyond the general attitude of the movie. And so, a lot of people felt like it was this big creative kind of explosion of subversive pleasure after a lot of other, superhero movies that were generic origin stories. But it itself was a generic origin story. It introduced the hero, it introduced the villain, then it threw them together into a conflict after the main injection of the plot. And that's pretty much all it did. It did it with a sense of humor, but still, it's sort of like my major problem, even though it's a better movie, and it's kind of an unfair comparison, it kind of suffered from the problem that plagued 22 Jump Street, which was the fact that it made fun of the fact that it was a sequel, but it still was a sequel. And it was a generic sequel that didn't really build on the first movie, much in the same way that Deadpool 2 kind of makes fun of the fact that it's a generic origin story, but doesn't elevate itself above that. It doesn't really work to do anything that's very different. And so that was basically my problem. It was one of those things where I was on the fence because I had a good time with the character. I thought that he was, fairly interesting as a main character in particular. But I just felt like the plot that he was in was kind of a lot of wheel spinning. So I wasn't, and also I was really not looking forward to that movie when it was coming out. I thought that all of the trailers for it were terrible. And it was kind of the same thing here. I thought that the trailers were rather dire. I wasn't a fan. So I had barely any anticipation level for this movie. And I'll just say that I think that it's basically, it's okay. It's basically just like the first movie in certain ways, and kind of not like it in other ways. But I don't know if it quite works. So. That's my thoughts. I know that I'm kind of being the party pooper in this, because I'm pretty sure that both of my fellows here have higher opinions of it. So I guess I'll hand it over to Bryan first. You loved the first movie, so as I know, so let us know how much you were anticipating this one.
Yeah, I was so surprised with the first Deadpool because honestly, out of all my best friends, like we had planned to watch Deadpool like opening night. We went opening night. We had this tradition when we were seniors in high school when it came out. We would always go out to eat at the same place and then go see all these big movies every Thursday night. And I remember I was the only one of my friend group that really wasn't looking forward to the first Deadpool. Like, I was like, oh, it looks fun. I'm very interested to see an R-rated superhero movie and how this character is brought to life on screen again. But I just wasn't excited for it because of the way it looked and everything. And I was very surprised by it. I had a lot of fun with it. I rewatched it the other day in preparation for this. And I like it a little less now, but I still think it's a really, really entertaining movie, a lot of fun. For what I was going for. With the sequel, actually, I was very mixed going into it. Now, I loved the first one, and I'm like, okay, this kind of does look like a lot of fun, but I was very nervous because of the director. And people are probably going to be like, why would you say that? It's because, well, as Joel said, the director's name is David Leitch. He co-directed the first John Wick, which I love. I love it. It's fantastic. But he directed a film last year that I really did not like called Atomic Blonde. Now, my problem with that movie wasn't so much with the way it was directed, it was more so of the screenplay. So I can't necessarily blame Leach for how I felt towards that movie. I think it was well done in terms of the action and the cinematography, and I was really excited to see that aspect put into this particular film. But at the same time, I was very nervous simply because of this director. And I thought the trailers were good. I thought they were really entertaining and really funny, and the action looked like a lot better. The thing that I was most excited about with this movie was that since the budget is higher, I thought there were going to be things about this movie that were better. Like, in my opinion, I didn't really like the way the action was handled in the first film, and that's coming from someone who liked the first film. Sure, it was fun action, but it just wasn't well done. You could just tell, because of the budget, they didn't have enough skills to go the way they wanted to go with the action. And yeah, I was looking forward to this movie, but I was very nervous at the same time. And I came out enjoying it. I thought this movie was good. Nothing incredible. I had fun with it. If I had to rank how entertaining it was, I would say like a 9 out of 10 for me. But as a movie, I really liked it. I thought it was good.
Chase, take it away, sir.
Okay, so the first Deadpool, I enjoy it. I didn't think it was like the best thing ever. I was kind of lukewarm on it, but I did like it a little bit more than Joel. I did think it as pure entertainment, it works. But my main issue was the humor. I didn't think the humor landed as much as people were claiming it was. I just liked it for its just pure entertainment value, and I like watching superheroes. And that is the one thing I did say about the first one, is that with their budget constraint, their budget was $30 million. It showed. Can't really blame them too much. It's one of those relationships that you just have to kind of go with as a moviegoer, knowing that it's the studio's film, and if they're going to only give this certain amount, you take that money and you got to work with it. But it does look cheap, and the action is a little kind of closed in a little bit and not really explored as much as you would want it to, because Deadpool is a very eccentric, very wild character, and you kind of want to see that wild, eccentric violence on screen. Didn't really pan out too well, but as entertainment, I gave it like a B or something like that. It was, it was solid. I liked it. And so watching the trailers to this one, I was kind of with Joel. It's like, I was excited to see it, but the trailers didn't really work that much for me. It's just like, cool, it's more of the same thing. But I actually like this one a little bit more. I'm not going to rate it that big of a grade higher, but it's I actually like this one more than the first one. So that's very interesting that we got like almost like three in terms of this conversation, we have like three radical opinions about the sequel. So that's interesting. And I was looking up the Wikipedia page for this one. So get this, the first one's budget was $30 million. This one was 110. Like, that's an insanely big jump from the first one. And I do think in some aspects the money does show well on the screen. But on the other hand, it does still kind of look a little cheap, just like the first one. But I do think the action is definitely bumped up, given the director. So I guess Joel, we have a guest on. So let's let Bryan go first. Bryan, give us your review, man. What's going on with that Deadpool 2 over there?
Yeah, so in terms of like positives, I'll start off with the obvious one. Ryan Reynolds' performance is fantastic. He really was hands down the best thing about the first film. Like, he really does embody this character very well. You can tell that he loves playing this character, really passionate about it. He's absolutely incredible. Obviously, he's really funny, as we've come to see him in this film and the first one. But what really took me by surprise the most with this one, and I'm sure it took both of you by surprise too, there was so much heart in this movie compared to the first one. I did not expect the dramatic elements of this movie to be even present, and I thought that Ryan Reynolds was really amazing in the dramatic scenes here. I mean, maybe amazing might be going a little too far, but I really thought he was incredible in the whole film. Josh Brolin was so good as Cable. Coming off of playing Thanos amazingly in Infinity War and now playing Cable here. I was a little worried about his performance here because everyone was going to compare him to Cable. And for people who are doing that, please stop. They're different characters, vastly different characters. Obviously, one's a, somewhat of a human. The other one is, a big creature, thingy-majiggy. But he's absolutely amazing here. I really loved his back and forth with Reynolds in the film. I think they had really good camaraderie between each other. My favorite performance in the film had to be Zazie Beetz, if that's how you pronounce her name. If it's not, I apologize. She plays Domino, and she is the standout of the film, in my opinion. First of all, she's now a new crush of mine. She's absolutely gorgeous, and she's really, really good in this role. Like, I really love the character a lot. Oh, my power is being lucky, and then you could see that throughout the whole film. It was a really good character and a really good performance. Honestly, most of the acting in the film was really good. I think that's my biggest praise with the film. I think that everyone did a really good job in the film. Julian Dennison, who was amazing, like really wonderful in Hunt for the Wilder People as Ricky Baker. He comes here and he's just... I don't think we have many child actors that could go to the caliber that this kid goes. He's really funny, but he's also really subtle. And like there are sequences where he explodes, and it's really incredible. Like you could kind of feel bad for where the characters come from, but at the same time, you're like, nah, this kid should not be doing what he's doing. But yeah, the acting I would say is really good. The action is much better here than it was in the first film. I have to praise the action. There were a lot of really fun action sequences in this film. There were a few that didn't exactly look amazing, but I was blown away by a majority of the action here. The dialogue was good. The comedy, for me, I feel like it works for the most part, but I could totally see some issues that people have with the constant references. I don't know if there's more references in this one than there was in the first. I could be wrong, but some of the references did tick me off. It was like, okay, let's stop with the references. I understand it's all about meta, but let's just calm down with the references and everything. The pace of it was really good. It was a fast-paced film. I wasn't bored with the movie. I like the way it wrapped up before the post-credits scene. I'm just talking about before the post-credits scene. Speaking of the post-credits scene, I loved it. I thought it was great. And yeah, I had a really good time with it. I definitely liked it a little more than the first one. I don't think it's a perfect movie. I think everyone that loves the first one is going to have a great time with this one. There are some people I've been talking to saying like, oh, I didn't like this movie. There was too much heart in it. It wasn't Deadpool. Listen, people have got to stop bitching and complaining. If the heart is well done, which in my opinion it was, then it's fine. I know people love to complain about when stuff doesn't meet their expectations like they do with like The Last Jedi and like now this movie. It's like,
do not ever bring that up in front of Joel, because Joel will slap you down so fast about the whole expectation
I
thing.
I liked The Last Jedi, but everyone that is my friends doesn't like it, so I'm just sick and tired of it, but I won't talk about it anymore. But anyways, Deadpool 2, I had fun with it. I thought it was really good. Good comedy, great action, fantastic performances, really sharp writing. I thought some of the comedy didn't work. Other than that, some of the action wasn't exactly the best for me. Yeah, other than that, that's
I think you're
pretty much
unintentionally
it for me. That's pretty much it for me.
I think you're unintentionally revealing that there's not much to talk about with this movie.
I'm trying to be kind of cautious with it, so
Right. No, I know
but yeah, that's really it for me. I enjoyed the movie. I had a good time with it. My expectations were kind of met. I was very happy with the way it came out. There were some things I wish could have been done better, but it wasn't a bad movie for me, and I had fun with it.
I guess I'll go next. Yeah, it's interesting. So it's weird that we're trying to dip around spoilers, because I don't even know if there's much to spoil here. There's not really I mean, the fact that
it's more cameo based that would probably be a surprise to people.
But I mean, there's really only one that's super like fun, and that happens for like a split second.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it literally, if you blink during that second, you would miss him.
Yes, you would. Like a literal blink, and it's true. You
although
would miss it.
there is actually another one that I didn't know about until I was looking at the cast list. That is actually credited. It's a couple of Hicks, and if you look it up, you'll find out who they are. But or who one of them is, I should say. But in any case, it's weird because I feel like I just feel like Bryan is unintentionally revealing how much there isn't to say about this movie. I think that it's fun enough in the action scenes. The most effective parts of them involve the character of Domino because of how everything just literally turns out in her favor. In which case, I don't even think it's a gift. I think she's cursed with luck. I think that that's a better way to look at it than to say that it's a gift. You know.
Yeah.
In any case, but she's a great character, and however you say her name, Zazie Beetz, is good. And I like how there's one scene where she exits the frame by literally noping out of it, to the side, that I thought was really funny, and I felt like it was probably improvised on the spot. Do y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, where
Yes.
she literally exits the side of the frame, and it's really funny. And that was pretty cool. And she's a really fun character. I kind of wish that I really hope that if there's a next movie, I assume there will be, that she's at least something of a focus, because that would be nice to see that happen, because I think that she has a lot of potential. And then Ryan Reynolds is fine. I think he leans a little too hard into the comedy part of this performance. He's pretty good in the dramatic stuff, as Bryan said. There's a couple of scenes in like this existential state that he enters on occasion that's pretty interesting, visually and just from a performance basis. But whenever he's kind of being Deadpool, I think that he kind of leans a little hard into it because they've really overdone it on the references. Like, for instance, this main part of the plot, and it's again not a spoiler to reveal that he wants to receive a death scene as gutting as that of Logan, last year. I'm not. Again, this is kind of really tiptoeing around it, but they do reach the point at which this joke becomes literal, and then the joke goes on too long, and so I think that that's kind of indicative of the kind of movie that this is. There's also another scene that really sums up everything about this character, and I guess without revealing the context, two characters, including Deadpool, are falling down a cliff into a ravine, and the ravine is frozen, and he starts narrating the scene in that sort of self-reflexive way that he always does, and he somehow fits references to Cool Runnings and the Human Centipede movies in the same analogy, and then you get to the punchline of the joke, which is kind of lame, and I think that pretty much sums up the entirety of this character. It's everything we need to know is in that scene, because he's referential. He doesn't care whether or not the punchline is going to land. So he just kind of goes for it, and that's pretty much the character. It's either you're going to fall into one of three camps with this movie and with this character. Either you're going to be completely on its wavelength, or you're going to at least acknowledge the existence that there's a wavelength to be on, and that's basically where I am. Or you're going to be several miles away from the wavelength, completely rejecting it. And there's going to be people in all of those camps. It's pretty much one of those three. Now, of course, that's generally any camp for any movie, but that pretty much sums it up. And for me, I kind of fall in the middle choice. I think that there are elements of this character that are really clever, and I think that there are elements of this character that are understandably really annoying. Particularly the thing that I talked about, this sort of the self-reflexivity of his tendency to reference things. And And so it's basically summed up by that scene, and I don't think that it really. I don't know if he, much about this character grows over the course of the movie, particularly because of, well, particularly because of the mid-credit scene, which is clever, but also kind of dumb in a certain way. I think it was funny, but it's again just referential. It's not really subversive, in the way that stuff like, for instance, well, I guess that is sort of subversive. That scene is sort of subversive, whereas the whole thing with him wanting that death scene is just kind of referential, and it kind of exists in that middle ground of working and not really working. And so that's pretty much where I am on it. To get in more specifics, I think, again, Reynolds is fine. Zazie Beetz is fun. Brolin is effective enough. I think that there are times when his character starts referencing things back and forth with Deadpool's in a way that suggested to me that Brolin could not believe that he was saying that stuff right then. And I think that kind of affects part of his performance. But in terms of the character arc for him, he's impressive. He's impressive in the role. There's a little bit more to it than just he's a villain, and I did admire that. And the side actors. There's a really fun scene where he's and it's honestly the best section of the movie, where Deadpool is putting together a team, and then let's just say stuff happens. And then Domino ends up being the only member of his team. I won't explain how. It could be any number of ways.
It's definitely the funniest sequence in the movie.
Yeah, it's the best, and it's also the best action sequence, because they go into action, and David Leitch does this really interesting thing where he treats it like it's a hero shot out of the Avengers movies. And so he doesn't do the single take, but he cuts in between each of them as things happen, and it's just really, really funny. And that's also, I think, the best section of Ryan Reynolds' performance. He really, he leans hard into the comedy elsewhere, but there he's pretty pitch perfect. So that was a really funny stretch. And so there's stuff that works. I just think that it's kind of it's just this kind of blend of bloody violence and crude humor and sincerity. You pretty much know exactly from the first movie what you're going to think about this one, because I think that if you think a certain thing about the first movie, that's going to be the thing you think about this. And for me, I'll just give my grade, I guess. First, though, I'll ask Bryan, what's your grade?
My grade is a B+.
Oh, a B+. Wow. Okay. Mine's the same. Mine's the same that I gave the first one, which is a C+. I think it almost works. I just think that the mixture doesn't quite get there for me. I want it to, so it's not like I'm gunning for these movies or whatever. I'm certainly down for more of them. I just think that they need to rein in some of their tendencies. I understand that the characters are really. Is somebody tapping?
No.
Desk? Okay, because I hear this thing that's like. Anyway, sorry guys, live show. I think that I know that the character's very referential, very out there, but I don't think that the movie quite gets him in the way that some of the audience members will, who've read the comics already. And I also don't think that you need to have a character who's exactly like the comics. They're different like media. So I think that there's a way that this movie can capture this character in a way that makes him more appealing, in a sense that he's actually subversive as is. I think that he's funny and crude and referential, but not exactly in a way that works for me. So that's my takeaway. So B+ from Bryan, C+ for me. Chase, I'll give it over to you for your review.
All right, so before we begin, we haven't been on in a couple weeks, so we're going to try a different format where we don't just necessarily break it into positives and negatives of a film. We're just going to go ahead and talk about it freely and kind of incorporate everything, like positive and negatively, into one long stretch. And I'm trying that out my video reviews, and of course Joel came up with the idea of doing that. I actually like it. I'm trying to work on it, so I'm going to attend to it with this one. So if I stutter a lot, just know that it's going to be more stuttering than usual. I usually stutter when I review movies, and you probably think it's unprofessional. That's fine, but it will probably be more so because this will be my first time doing this. All right, so when I saw the first one, the one thing I did say it lacked very heavily was action sequences, and when you have someone as kind of as a loud character and personality like Deadpool, I want to see that translated into film, whether it be his humor, his violence, or just the way he is. I want to see it just kind of loud in your face. And for the sequel, I was impressed on two fronts. One, the action. David Leitch does bring his John Wick isms over to this film, and what I mean by that is the one thing I've always appreciated about those movies is that they understand action and how to hold on a shot and not have to edit every 3 seconds to make it look like the movie's having a seizure, and they know how to kind of let the audience really bask in the glory of cinematography and choreography and really get involved with the violence and the action. And he carries that over with this one. The action scenes are fun. I love the whole car chase scene in the middle of the movie is very well done. Choreograph-wise, some of the special effects is a little iffy with the green screen, but, as it stands as, action entertainment, I think it's definitely a step up from the first one. That's just one sequence. The end sequence is really well done as well. So is the beginning stuff. I think David Leitch really did kind of bring over his directing style in terms of the action, because I'm kind of with Bryan. I didn't really care for Atomic Blonde, but make no mistake about it, that one shot scene in the building was pretty dope, and that was definitely my favorite takeaway. That shouldn't be your favorite takeaway from any movie. It's just like one action scene, but I didn't really care for the movie, and so I wanted to take one positive thing from it, and I do think that was well choreographed, and so I was excited to see kind of his take on just how he portrayed the action and violence, and I thought that was really well done. The second thing I was impressed by was the heart, the dramatic stuff, and I actually think it works. I know a lot of people are going to be turned off at the fact that Ryan Reynolds can act and he can actually cry. Well, newsflash, folks, he's been able to do that for years, and I'm glad you guys have finally caught up to it. If no one has ever seen Buried, watch that movie. If you can have an actor command your attention for an hour and a half inside of a coffin 6 feet underground, then you've done your job. Not only that, he's been in other movies where he's been able to flex not only his dramatic side, but his action side, his dark comedy side. The guy is so versatile that people just assume that he's a one-line type of dude. He's just nothing but quips. But the actual, heart and just purity in this movie, with like what Joel said, with like the kind of limbo-ish scenes where he can actually get stripped down and we can see Ryan Reynolds act for the good actor that he is. I was really surprised by that, and I know a lot of people will get turned off at the fact that it's going to be really kind of dramatic and sweet, and then flip over to the kind of like hard R edge of comedy. That blend may not work well with people, but it worked well with me, and I actually thought going back and forth between those two was a nice break from the comedy, and also added a lot of emotional substance to the movie. Because if you watch the first one, it really is a romance film. I mean, it has elements of romance in it, and there are a couple of scenes where Ryan Reynolds can flex his acting just a little bit, like when he was in the doctor's office and they announced that he had cancer. The camera stayed on his face for a little bit, and you could see that kind of pain that he was fighting with, and I wanted more of those scenes in the sequel, and I got that with the stuff between him and Vanessa, or him and Cable, or him and Julian Dennison, who played Fire Fist. There was a lot of good stuff in there to kind of counterbalance the goofy zaniness of the comedy. However, that's where this movie kind of faults for me once again. I've seen this movie twice, and the first time was filled with hundreds of people in there. The second time, there were also hundreds of people in there. But both audiences reacted differently to the humor. The first time I saw the movie, people were losing their shit. As if they were cryogenically frozen for 100 years. They awoke out of their sleep, and someone recommended Deadpool 2 as the first comedy they ever witnessed, and they were laughing their balls off at anything that was referential or violent or, joke-wise. People would not shut up. However, in the second viewing, it was a little bit more tame, and there were outbursts of laughter, sure, maybe some minor chuckles, but it wasn't as intense as the first one. And so what I realized what the difference was between the first viewing and the second viewing were the references and the one-liners. That is where it really split the audience. Most of the violent humor actually worked in terms of, for me and both my audiences. But here's what drives me crazy, is when people mistake references for humor. I will sit and tell you guys this right now. As a fanboy, as someone that would never review films, just watch movies casually, the references and the cameos in this movie are fun and cheeky. There's nothing wrong with that. But this film and the Deadpool character relies on references for humor. That does not work for me. Yes, is it fun and cheeky to hear him reference anything from the Avengers? Sure. But if I'm going to be honest as a critic, I'm telling you guys that it does not work for me humor-wise. Some of the one-liners don't work for me. Just like with the first one, I have the same problem with the humor in this one. But I will say that it makes up for it for certain sequences, like we've said, involving the X-Force, or maybe a couple things with Julian Dennison's character. There's exceptions here and there, or even when Cable speaks. Exceptions here and there where you will probably laugh at the stupidity. But then there are other times where they try too hard. And that's where it just faults the most for me, is that I'm telling you, when you have a character that relies on zaniness and humor and reminds you of kind of like Jim Carrey's version of The Mask, humor is a big part of that. And if it does not hit that well, then you have almost failed as a character and as a movie within that department. And that's a huge ding on the movie. But on the flip side, one of the things I really enjoyed about this movie the most, besides the action and the heart, was the story. I actually thought the story was way more interesting this time than the first time. The first time, we focused primarily on a highway shootout, and we see a bunch of flashbacks. And then he eventually meets up with Ajax, and they have their fight. Cool. But this one, we're dealing with time travel. We're dealing with more characters, with like Julian Dennison. We're dealing with like a prison cell. We're dealing with certain surprise characters that kind of come up. For me, the story was way more engaging and entertaining than the first one. Definitely more complex layers to kind of go outside the box a little bit and kind of explore the Deadpool kind of comic line. And that's where I will praise the studio for getting their heads out of their ass and actually giving them a budget to work with. Because some of the scenes with Cable, showing them in the future, they're cool looking. Like, they actually had some, interesting style to it. And so I was like, cool, I'm glad that this movie was able to expand its story more, incorporate time travel and all this stuff, and really kind of make definitely a more engaging storyline than the first one. I thought all the performances were really well done. I will go off of what Bryan said with Julian Dennison. He's one of the most mature kid actors I've ever seen, where like he doesn't appear, scared or timid, in like cutesy like a child. He just appears as a child actor with like a mature performance, whether it be the comedy, which doesn't hit sometimes, but he tried. But when Bryan was saying about when he would blow up and have these kind of, emotional moments, he sold it. For a movie that relies on zany humor, I'm telling you, the heart in this movie is so unexpected that it works, not just for Deadpool, but for Cable, but for, Fire Fist and Colossus and I just thought it worked. I will say that, speaking of the characters, I love Zazie Beetz as Domino. She's very entertaining. She's got that charisma that you would want for someone that kind of has the cockiness attitude of having good luck, or as Joel puts it, the curse of good luck. I just wish there was more of her. Not a problem. They're going to make another one, but I will still ding it for this one. But she needs to definitely join the third one for sure. Let's see what else. That's about it. I did have a lot more fun with this one, like I said, than the first one, because of action, heart, and the storyline. And I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I cannot believe that Josh Brolin has 2 successful movies at the top 2 at the box office. It's kind of fascinating to see the career turnaround, but I'm with Bryan. I'm going to give Deadpool 2 a B+. If you like the first one, you'll probably like this one. You didn't care for the first one, because I know there are plenty of people that didn't care for it. I don't think you're going to like this one, but you might like it a little bit more. I've been kind of hearing that kind of consensus against people that didn't like the first one.
Weirdly enough, I had the same kind of, I had the same rating, and I basically had the same reaction, and y'all seem to have pretty much the same reaction. So, even if it was, slightly above or whatever, it was around the same thing, and so I suspect that whatever you felt about the first one, you'll likely feel about this one. Honestly.
That's basically what we're going with. If you didn't like the first one, you probably won't like this one. You might like it, but I'm gonna say no. But if you like the first one, you will definitely like this one. There's definitely a lot of fun to be had, and I've actually seen plenty of people online actually like this one more than Avengers, the Infinity War, and I just find that kind of fascinating. But I guess it's kind of you're akin to taste, to where you want something really meaty and kind of heavy, more on the dramatic side, or you want more kind of light entertainment, like with this, or even with like Ant-Man and the Wasp coming up. So I just find it fascinating that people have different preferences for superhero films.
It's also crazy because Avengers Infinity War is amazing. Mm-hmm. So I'm just kidding. But yeah, so speaking of which, so B+ is from both of those people and C+ for me.
Bryan, did you see how he said both of those people as if like we're pieces of shit for liking this movie? I understand where you're going with this.
To us as.
Yeah, I understand
Deadpool, those Deadpool 2 likers.
those Deadpool 2 likers. I will gladly take that title.
Oh boy. All right, guys. So the box office this week. Chase, you hinted that did you look?
Joel, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to know what the top 2
are. Yes, it doesn't. All right, so I'm going to have y'all guess, but first, of course, we have the hints. Now, Bryan and Chase, just a reminder that the hints are any of the wide releases in the top 10, and thus they could be in the top 5. So your hints are Book Club, Deadpool 2, and Show Dogs. So I know. So Bryan, I'm going to hand it over to you. What do you think the top 5 are? And keep in mind, what came out in the last 2 weeks, because movies did actually open.
Okay. Well, first of all, before Bryan goes, Bryan, you and I are going to work together, and we're going to take Joel down. All right, so Bryan, I think we can safely assume, because we're going to talk this out, I think we can safely assume Deadpool 2 is at number 1, Infinity War is at 2, but where do we go from there? Like, what kind of inklings do you have, or what do you think is still in there?
Well, I think the only release that's still in there that didn't come out this weekend is Life at the Party. I think that's the only one that's still in there. So obviously Deadpool has to be number 1 and Avengers has to be number 2. My guess for number 3 is Book Club.
You really think Book Club made it that high?
I think so, because there's always that one movie that comes out every once in a while where the older generation, like grandparents, go out to see movies like this, and they make a lot of money. I mean, not necessarily the level of money that Deadpool and like Avengers make, but they make a nice amount of money just to satisfy those people. So yeah, I'm gonna say that's number 3. Number 4, I'm gonna make a guess and say Life at the Party, and number 5, I'm gonna say Show Dogs.
You know what? I'm gonna go with the same list.
Okay, so y'all were both off only by 1.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
Yeah, it's really, really, really close, but you got the top 4 right in the order. So,
Nice.
Ooh.
dropping from number 3 to number 5 is Breaking In with
Oh, I
6
forgot
points.
about that one.
Oh.
Yeah, 6.5 million for a domestic total of 28.8 and a worldwide total of 30.5 on a $6 million budget. So they did. Universal did pretty well with this one, gotta say. They did advertise it pretty heavily. So dropping from number 2 to number 4, as I intimated, is Life of the Party with 31 million basically, and a worldwide total of 36.8. It doesn't have a listed production budget, but that kind of thing happens to do much better on streaming than in theaters, generally speaking. And then debuting at number 3, Book Club with 12.5 million. I don't think it's open. Yeah, it hasn't opened in worldwide markets yet. I think we got it first. And it also doesn't have a production budget, so whatever. Number 2 is Avengers Infinity War with 28.7 million for a total domestic gross of 595. Oh my gosh. And a worldwide total of $1.8 billion. This thing is a minor hit. And then, of course, debuting at number 1 is Deadpool 2. Now, this is interesting. So the first film opened with, I think, 132 or something, 133, if I remember correctly. This one opened with 125. So it's interesting that it actually made less than the first movie.
I never thought I'd say this ever in my life, but 125 for that movie is actually a fail. Like,
I know.
That's insane to think about.
Yeah, it's very strange because it's only $25 million more than the budget. You kind of expect, or $15 million more, I'm sorry, than the budget. And so you kind of expect that it'll make, its budget plus, at least half of the budget back in the first weekend, to kind of, but it's not great. Worldwide, it's at 301.3. So that's pretty good. But so I guess it's worldwide. It's obviously made back at least some of its advertising money, and it's certainly broken even. But yeah, states wise, it's not doing great. At least not as good as it should be doing, because it should have outperformed its predecessor. That's the general expectation of movies at this point. And it didn't do that. It fell short by 7 million, which is a significant number to fall short for this kind of thing. So those are the top 5. Elsewhere, Show Dogs debuted at number 6 with 6 million. I didn't see that one. I'll probably catch it on Blu-ray or whatever. I did see Book Club. Like I said earlier, it's kind of whatever. Candice Bergen is amazing in the movie. She plays one of the women. Getting together to talk about 50 Shades of Grey. Although much of the plot doesn't actually have to do with 50 Shades of Grey. It's more about what the meetups represent for them. There's stuff that works, but it's kind of not my thing with all 3 of those words capitalized. You could do a lot worse than that movie. So it's pleasant enough. It's just not quite enough. So those are pretty much the big numbers this week. We didn't really have a huge falls that I can see, except for Traffic, that Paula Patton movie from a couple weeks ago, which dropped 80%.
Oh, good lord!
Which, yeah, crazy. And it's 50. It's in its 50th weekend. It only made 52,000. So, and it's got 9 million. I don't know what the budget is, but I think that's pretty much the most. Oh, A Wrinkle in Time suddenly dropped 88% when it lost 1,000 theaters. That thing only made $97 million on like a $150 million budget. So not great. I don't think it's met its budget worldwide yet. So not a great way of opening. In terms of tinier releases, you had the Pope Francis documentary made 480,000. Which is not as impressive as it sounds because it opened in 346 theaters. So, anyway, and then First Reformed opened in 4 theaters to $100,000. So, Bryan, people are taking your advice because that's 25. That's that is only 3,000 less per theater in 4 theaters than Deadpool 2 made in 4,349 theaters. So that's pretty good. Got to say, that's pretty impressive. So I can't wait to see it whenever it opens, like in 2028 in Dallas. And so that's pretty much it, guys. That's the news for the week in terms of the box office. It was kind of a quiet weekend leading up to Memorial Day. Speaking of which, that brings us to the subject of next week's episode. We are reviewing Solo. It's the new Star Wars spin-off about Han Solo. And so I'm actually kind of looking forward to that movie now as it gets closer, just because it's Star Wars. I don't really have any super strong feelings about it still, but whatever. I'm going to be in a theater watching a Star Wars movie. And yes, that is absolutely a confirmation of Chase's bemusement at me for looking forward to this stuff. So in any case, I know, Chase, you're not really like super psyched about that, right?
It's whatever. I'm just gonna let Joel talk for like 24 hours. I'll chime in like every 2 seconds and be like, Donald Glover's in it. There's lightsabers. There's pow pow, shoot 'em ups, and Woody Harrelson's in it. That's all I'm gonna say. No, I mean I'm looking forward to it. I just because I like movies, but as a Star Wars average film goer, I could care less. I mean, but I am off of a Star Wars high because I did like The Last Jedi quite a bit. So who knows? I have more optimism going into this one just because I enjoyed the previous take. So we'll see. But that is episode 232 next week for the Memorial Day long weekend. It will be quite fun. So Bryan, before we go, are you looking forward to Solo?
I am looking forward to it a lot more than I was a few months ago. I'm still not like super hyped for it simply because I'm not like the thing with me. I love Star Wars too. I don't think as much as Joel. Like my big franchise is like Harry Potter. I feel like Chase's big thing is like Marvel. Mine is Harry Potter and Joel's is Star Wars and Harry Potter. But I don't know, like, I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely interested to see how this all goes because I have no idea what's going to happen in this movie. Like, it's just that I don't think it's needed. But, who knows? The expectations could be succeeded, and I hope this movie's good. I've liked all the movies that Disney has done under the or all the Star Wars movies under the Disney name so far. I liked Force Awakens. I thought Rogue One was fine, and I liked The Last Jedi. So, I'm hopeful for this one.
Alrighty, guys. Well, in that case, Chase, where can the good people of America and elsewhere find you online?
If you want to follow me, it's at RealChaseLee on Twitter. Or subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can get, when I do all these reviews early and do other stuff that we don't do on this podcast. It's quite fun, but, make sure for this show that, whether you're listening to iTunes, iHeartRadio, or SoundCloud, or YouTube, Spreaker, whatever, please spread this around and help us out and spread the word on our little podcast that Joel and I have created, and we have a little podcast baby together.
Excellent. You can find my writing on joelonfilm.com. I've got a bunch of reviews this week because I had procrastinated last weekend, and so I combined the 2 weekends. You can read my reviews of Deadpool 2, Book Club, Let the Sunshine In, and Zama as the theatrical stuff. Also caught up with bunch of movies on DVD/Blu-ray, such as Nostalgia, All I Wish, Peter Rabbit, and The Forgiven. The Forgiven is going to show up on a certain halfway through the year episode, let's just say. So, you can find my writing there. You can also follow me on Letterboxd. I'm at Copling. You can read some of my writing at DallasMovieScreenings.com. We've got all of our reviews for the Dallas International Film Festival movies up there. And you can follow me on Twitter at RealJoelCopling, REEL, and then my name. So
that is correct. And Bryan, man, where can the people find you online?
You guys could find me on Twitter and on Instagram simply at Bryan Sudfield.
Oh, awesome. Well, that was very exciting. All right, so because like people are just like my Instagram handle or my Twitter handle is like big butthole 39 surfer dude, and then like yours is like that's Bryan Sudfield. So thank you for that.
Well,
so Bryan,
so many times at this point, I just need to change it to my regular name at this point.
Right.
So.
But Bryan, now you need to change it to Big Butthole 39. That's that's what you need to do.
Big Butthole 39 Surfer Dude will be my next handle, so look out for that. But all the links in the description will be below. Next week, Solo. This week, Deadpool 2. Please let us know down below what you thought of Deadpool 2 and all that. It's good stuff. I love hearing you guys' response. But we will see you guys next week for another episode of Real Me and Cole on a movie podcast. And hey, listen, if you made it through this entire movie podcast and you're not a movie fan, hopefully we convinced you to be one. That's Joel over there. Brian's over there. I'm Chase. Peace out, everyone. You guys are awesome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And we out.